come to give you what you love. It's time to give you what you love. I'ma give you what you love. Give you what you love.
And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have tuned in to The Source with host Andrea Lawful Sanders. Unfortunately, she's not here today, but she's fine. She's taking a well-deserved break like we all need to. So what she said and what the management at WRD said, certainly D, and you all know D Patel here at WRD said, hey, Mike Cord, Angriest Black Men in America, you got some time? And I'm like, I actually do. That's why yours truly, Attorney Michael Cord, a.k.a. Michael X, a.k.a. the angriest black man in America, is guest hosting today's show. But Sister Andrea Lawful Sanders will be back in due course to do what she does so very well during this time slot. Folks, you got a lot of stuff to cover, but it's mostly about you. That's why I'm going to give you these two phone numbers. Call and ask about anything. Call 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. And also, if you're calling long distance, you can do that toll free. That number is 866-361-0900. Once again, 866-361-0900. And in addition to hearing this voice on the radio, WURD 96.1 FM and WURD 900 AM, you can see the face of Idris Elba. You can see the face of Denzel Washington. How? By streaming WURD Facebook Live, WURD YouTube, WURD Twitch. If you have any questions, just check us out at our website, WURDradio.com, and you can check us out there at WURD TV Live. So you can hear us, you can see us, and you can feel us. Once again, folks, it's all about you. We want to hear you and your calls. So call us now. Call us later. Call us all day long. 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. Toll free. 866-361-0900. Once again, 866-361-0900. We want everybody to call. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me. In fact, I really like those who disagree with me because that's the way we grow. You can show me the error of my ways, or I can show you the error of your ways, and we can come to maybe not a happy medium, but everybody has the right to express their opinion. So we encourage folks to call in. Now, we do have guests lined up because we got some important information to share with you. But again, it's your show, so you call and we'll get to every single person. Speaking of guests, we have City Council person Derek Green coming up in about 5 minutes or so. And he's holding a hearing this coming Thursday, which you ought to find out more about. And you need to participate because what he does, councilperson Derek Green, what he's going to do on Thursday is to make the connection between rising gun violence and reduced economic development. The more crime you have, it seems it's the result of the less jobs you have. So flip it. The more jobs you have, the less violent crime. Councilperson Derek Green is going to talk with us about that in just about 5 minutes. We don't stop there. And then at 1:30 is going to be a press conference. It's only going to take about maybe 15 minutes or so. So we're going to cut away from this show for about 15 minutes at around 1:30 and have a press conference. Well, I should say show a press conference. The show here is going to go on, but we're going to cut to a press conference because it's an important event taking place. And yours truly, Michael Cord, a.k.a. Michael X, a.k.a. the angriest black man in America, I'm part of it. Here's the background. There are 5 attorneys involved. There's Paul Hetznecker, there's Riley Ross, there's Kevin Mincy, there is Marnie Joe Snyder, and there is yours truly, Michael Cord. And we came together and filed last year, I would argue, the most important federal civil rights anti-police brutality lawsuit in the history of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let me repeat that. Along with Paul Hetznecker, attorney at law, Riley Ross, attorney at law, Kevin Mincy, attorney at law, Marnie Joe Snyder, attorney at law, and yours truly, Michael Cord, attorney at law. We filed last year a historic lawsuit, the likes of which you've never seen before, on behalf of 230. In fact, let me read the press release to you. It goes like this. Today, June 1 at 1:30 p.m., lawyers representing more than 230 victims of the 2020 police assaults on Philadelphia homeowners and residents in West Philadelphia and on activists on the Vine Street Expressway peacefully protesting police brutality will hold a press conference to commemorate the one-year anniversary of the assaults. The assaults took place on May 31, 2020, and June 1, 2020. So today being 1 year, we're holding a press conference so that we can do a lot of stuff. One, we're going to unveil for the first time, a never before seen video of dramatic footage of the police assaults on peaceful protesters and on non-protesting homeowners in West Philly. And we're going to discuss reform goals. And when I say we're going to discuss reform goals, I literally mean that. You know, I was about to say no disrespect, and we're going to get to our guest in just a second. I was going to say no disrespect, but I do mean disrespect. And we're going to get to our guest in just 1 minute, and I'm going to come back to the point I'm trying to make. Then we got Germantown Joe. We're going to get to him. But here's the thing. There's some big-name attorneys out there who are always in the news, always, I call them vultures. You know how vultures circle around the air and they see if something is dead or dying, then they swoop down and exploit it. Well, that's what some of these lawyers do. They go from town to town, city to city, state to state, file these lawsuits, get X amount of dollars, and then move on to the next. They actually profit from Black Death. But what they do with these lawsuits is they seek primarily, or really in many cases exclusively, something called compensatory damages. I'm going to wrap this up in 30 seconds. By compensatory damage, what they do is they come in and say, hey, you beat up my client. Hey, you beat up my client's husband and killed him. So we want $10 million. And then they negotiate and might settle on $5 million. The lawyer gets 40% and keeps it moving. But that cop didn't lose his job. That cop didn't get arrested. That cop didn't even pay that judgment. Nothing changes. These lawyers just go around getting money and changing nothing. But what we're doing, the lawyers I mentioned, Paul Hetznecker, Riley Ross, Kevin Mincy, Marnie Joe Snyder, and yours truly, Michael Cord, we filed a lawsuit. Yeah, we're trying to get compensatory damages for our clients. They ought to be paid for their pain and suffering, but we're seeking real reform. We're seeking an end to police brutality. We want an end to the militarization of the Philadelphia Police Department. We want respect for protesters like Black Lives Matter. We want real reforms. We want an end to tear gas. We want an end to pepper spray. We want an end to rubber bullets. We want an end to police brutality. We want the kind of thing that Councilman Curtis Jones is talking about with his Citizens Police Oversight Commission. I'm going to talk to you more about this. Correction. The team that I'm a part of, they're holding a press conference in about 20 minutes, and they'll explain everything. But what I want to do right now is to start off as I started in the beginning of the show. And I said that Councilperson Derek Green has a novel idea. He looked at this violent crime and said, what's the solution? Seems like when people have money, they don't engage in violent crime. It seems that when people don't have money, they seem to engage in violent crime. So this coming Thursday, June 3rd, he's going to hold a hearing to show the connection between rising gun violence and reduced economic development. City Council person Derek Green and my frat brother, the microphone is yours. How are you, sir?
Brother Cord, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. It was always a pleasure to listen to your commentary and also talk with the great listeners of WURD Radio.
Yes, sir.
This conversation actually came to me by, I have to give him due credit, Bilal Qayyum, who's been involved in this work for a number of years. But what people also don't realize, not only has Bilal been involved in anti-violence work going all the way back to House of Moja with David Fattah and Sister Fattah, but he also worked in the Commerce Department for a number of years as well. So
I never knew that. I never knew that.
He worked in the Commerce Department for the city for a number of years.
Wow.
I can't remember exactly when he retired. So he's been part of this intersection of both economic development and commerce and gun violence for his professional career. So a lot of his anti-violence work, I would say, and I can't speak for him, I would say that is his 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. life. But his 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. has been work on economic development and commerce. So he was the one that made this suggestion. And I also said that is a great connection because I know a lot of my work has been on both sides. And so the idea of tying the issue of gun violence, systemic racism, and also a lack of economic development opportunities, to me, is a connection that we have not seen. So we're going to start this conversation on Thursday. We're going to have various people from the community that we've reached out to come out and testify. We're also going to hear from the administration about, we've got the Commerce Department, which is now under Mike Rashid, and we also have also another good fraternity brother.
Yes,
also part of the administration is dealing with public safety, and what's the connection between the two and how we're making that connection. And I think when we have this hearing, and I didn't time it for this week specifically, but it just happened to be the same week that we are looking at the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre.
Wow.
And when you think about, and I had a chance to watch the CNN special Dreamland last night. It'll be broadcast again, I believe, on Saturday at 9 p.m. Also saw the History Channel documentary on Saturday night regarding Tulsa. And it's interesting, both of those documentaries were executive produced by LeBron James at CNN last night, and Russell Westbrook was also part of the History Channel.
My man.
Dynamic. But it all ties together when you think about the history of this country and the fact that we don't have black Rockefellers or black DuPonts or black Hiltons because of what happened in Tulsa and also what happened in cities all around the country.
Excellent.
And then we've had this conversation about Wilmington, North Carolina. You look at Colfax, Louisiana, Elaine, Arkansas, and we can go through a number of cities all during the Reconstruction time period where African Americans were starting to build wealth, and that was taken away from them during Reconstruction.
I love the way you made that connection because we always talk about the greatness of Black Wall Street as if it was just during that time in 1921. But had there not been a destruction of Black Wall Street and the hundreds of other Black Wall Streets throughout American history, we would have the Black Rockefellers. We would have the Black DuPonts. That's a great point, Councilman. Please continue.
And so when you think about how this impacts generations of people in our country, and look at areas like Wilmington, North Carolina, when people talk about January 6th and we actually had an attempted coup d'etat in D.C., we had an actual one in Wilmington where we had a diverse city council and mayor elected in Wilmington, North Carolina, and basically whites who did not like this dynamic came in and had a riot very similar to what happened in Rosewood, Florida, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, had a riot which basically destroyed and removed the black elected officials and other leaders out of Wilmington. They put in a new form of government, and to this day, Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a resort town, looks dramatically different because of those actions.
Councilman, let me just jump in and say I know that you are an effective public servant and political insider. I had no idea you were a serious historian because you are really breaking this down. Please continue. I got a half a page of notes from what you're talking about, but please continue, sir.
Yeah, so, I mean, at the end of the day, when we look at the challenges that we have in the African-American community, and the fact that we even have, and this station, be able to have this conversation is based on the fact of Dr. Walter P. Lomax having an opportunity to get into managed care, also through the great work of then Secretary of State John White Jr., which allowed him to develop the resources to be able to have a managed care opportunity, which allowed him to develop the finances to allow us to even have this conversation that we're having. So all of this connected to the denial of economic development opportunities that African Americans have had historically. And even coming out of slavery, when we had the least amount of resources, we were still building that black wealth, and it was taken from us. And so when I think about the issues of the gun violence and public safety concerns, that to me is a connection to the lack of economic development opportunities and how we need to press the administration to do more in growing black wealth and those opportunities as a way to try to address the gun violence and public safety issues we have in our city.
Very, very well said. Now, Councilman, if folks want to tune in, and I'm sure we're talking about tuning in / zooming in as opposed to physically being present, how do they do that?
So if they want to watch the hearing, they can always go to phlcouncil.com/watch. It'll be Thursday, June 3rd at 9:30 a.m. They can also watch it via Comcast or Verizon, Comcast Channel 64, Verizon Channel 40. And if they're interested in testifying or providing information, because I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation.
Yes, sir.
They can always feel free to reach out to me by way of email. They can send me an email at Derek, DEREK.green@phila.gov.
I got to tell you, you really broke it down. It makes sense. I appreciate you giving a shout out to Brother Bilal, but I got to tell you, you're doing the heavy lifting. But we're running out of time. So in the final 10, 15, 20 seconds, is there anything you want to add, anything you want to repeat, anything you want to highlight about why it's so important that folks follow up on what you're trying to do? The microphone is yours for the next 20 seconds.
And I'll close by this. You know, we often talk about these issues in silos when they're all interconnected. So the public safety issue, the lack of economic development, the systemic racism that you fought so long, the criminal justice system, all of this is interconnected, and we need to get away from some of the silos and work collectively to address these issues.
Councilman Derek Green and member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, really appreciate what you do. You're a great public servant doing great public service. Thank you very much, and we look forward to having you back on to give us updates about your great legislative work.
Anytime. Thank you for the opportunity. Take care and be well.
My pleasure. Councilman Derek Green, folks, you got to check that out. That's Comcast Channel 64, Verizon Channel 40. And if you actually want to testify at this hearing to say, hey, why is it that crime goes up when there's fewer jobs? Maybe we should get more jobs and less crime. Let's quickly go to the phone lines before our commercial break. I believe that on line one, we got Germantown Joe. Let's go straight to Germantown Joe on line one. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fine, Brother Mike. How about yourself?
No complaints, man. Fighting the good fights, winning most of them.
Hey, Mike, you have a bad habit, Mike, of having Mike's. You got Mike, baby, you got Mike on Sunday. Two good brothers, by the way.
It's contagious. Yes, sir.
You can never get enough Mikes, Mike. You can never get enough Mikes around, you know what I mean? You always got to have those, man. But no, Mike, on a serious note, I wanted to tell you, you did a wonderful job yesterday when you hosted the show about Tulsa massacre, and that's what it was, the race massacre. Outstanding. The sister you talked to and stuff, man, it was just good. I was listening to the radio, brother. Just listening to
Appreciate
the
you saying that.
called in. No, you're welcome, Mike. I mean it too, brother. It was an excellent show, man. You know, giving our people education on what happened when them devils did, like you say, devils do what devils do. And what they did to our people down there, and the fact that this government, you know, who was government sanctioned, and they never paid our people reparations and stuff. Now, for example, Biden, he's going to be speaking down there today, and that's fine. But what should be the man that should put on President Biden is, look, don't just talk about it with a shame and all that. Pay those descendants reparations.
Amen.
Just like Jews was paid. I get tired of these flowers.
Amen.
Give them people back their land. Give our people back the land that was stolen, and make them people whole again. Give them financial reparations and give them their land back. And two more things, too, Mike, before I go.
And we got 30 seconds,
Mike,
Joe, before the commercial break.
Okay, and Mike, why this city keep the state still holding Bill Cosby in jail? 83-year-old blind black man. He was denied parole the other day. That's just racist and nasty, mean-spirited. But them double counts that posted all kinds of hateful messages on Facebook and stuff, threatening to kill our people, they don't get their jobs back. But you want to punish Bill Cosby. I just get started talking this racist doubles. And Mike, when is these black legislators? I close with this, Mike. When is these black state people that got Governor Wolf Eric going to speak up and say, look, man, get Bill Cosby out of jail and stop this foolishness, man. I mean, you think about it, man, these devils are going to get their jobs back, and they hate our people with a passion, but you can't get an 83-year-old blind black man out of jail. Come on, man. You know that's not right. You know that's not right.
Joe, you're always on point. We appreciate your call, and we really appreciate your passion. Germantown Joe, starting us off today. Thank you very much. And, folks, we're going to come right back after this commercial break. WURD 96.1 FM.
The Black Words Book Club. Word Radio's conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for June is Taught by Women, Poems as Resistance Language by Hakeem Adabuti. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, Tuesday, June 8th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for Word members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
You're listening to The Source
on Word Radio,
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
That is absolutely correct. You are listening to The Source, normally hosted by the great, and I do mean great, Andrea Lawful Sanders. You're talking about somebody who is passionate, somebody who is angry, somebody who's an agitator, and those are all compliments. I really love listening to Andrea Lawful Sanders hosts the show, but she's not available today. She said, hey, Mike, are you available? I said, yes, I certainly am. Say no more. So that's why I'm here. Hey, folks, in about 5 minutes, we're going to go to a press conference, and you got to keep your dial locked right here at WRD, because if you want the first step to real police reform, if you want the first step toward real police brutality, if you want the first step toward lawyers fighting for change and not for money, then you got to tune in about 5 minutes to a press conference. It's going to feature yours truly indirectly. I'm part of a 5-person team: Attorney Paul Hetznecker, Attorney Riley Ross, Attorney Kevin Mincy, Attorney Marnie Joe Snyder, and yours truly, Attorney Michael Court, filed a historic lawsuit. And today is the 1-year anniversary of why we filed that lawsuit. So keep your dial locked here at WRD. And if you can, check us out by way of our streaming on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on Twitch, and on our website. That way you can see, in addition to hearing, the press conference. Let me see if I can squeeze in at least one more person before we get to our press conference. Next up, waiting patiently, line 2, Reverend Joe. You talk about a pastor who lives the life that you're supposed to live. In other words, not trying to get fancy cars and Cadillacs and all that stuff, but doing what Jesus would do. That's the question. What would Jesus do? And that's what Reverend Joe does. Reverend Joe, the microphone is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Michael Court. A will is as strong as its weakest spoke. And it sounds like you got a great team of legal minds together. And I want to tell the people, don't forget, June is Black Music Month. It's God's gift to the world. And last but not least, the same spirit that burned down Wall Street, Black Wall Street, is still alive, and it can and will happen again. That spirit is still here, and we need to be on our P's and Q's about that. It ain't over with yet.
Reverend Joe. We appreciate you saying that, but more important, we appreciate the good Christian work you do. Thank you very much, sir, for calling in. All right. And folks, we got about 4 minutes, and at exactly 1:30, we got to go straight to this press conference. Let me just read to you the press release we put out. It goes like this. On June 1, 2021 at 1:30 p.m., that's today in 5 minutes, lawyers representing more than 230 victims of the 2020 police assault on Philadelphia homeowners and residents in West Philadelphia and on activists on the Vine Street Expressway peacefully protesting police brutality will hold a press conference to commemorate the 1-year anniversary. This happened back on June 1, 2020, and the day before, May 31, 2020. And we're doing this so that we can let folks know what's going on, because check this out. We're going to unveil a video of dramatic and new footage of the assaults, and we're going to explain to you our reform goals. We're not just seeking compensatory damages where clients get money. We're talking about much more than that. We're talking about real police reform. We're talking about an end to brutality, an end to tear gas, an end to rubber bullets, an end to pepper spray. We're talking about not just compensatory damages in paying our clients, but we're talking about real reform by way of consent decrees, by way of injunctive relief. We are fighting with this lawsuit to change the face of policing as you know it. And what I was going to do is try to squeeze in Malik and try to squeeze in Raza Khan and try to squeeze in everybody else, but I want you all to be patient. The press conference will only take about 15 minutes. We also got Maurice, and I want to hear from Maurice. So in about a minute and a half, we're going to go to that press conference. You can hear it, obviously, on the radio, but if you want to see it, we're streaming the show and that on WURD Facebook Live, WURD YouTube, and WURD Twitch. Historic lawsuit filed by a team of great lawyers. We have Paul Hetznecker. Paul is arguably the godfather of civil rights litigation here in Philadelphia. We got Riley Ross. He's a partner along with Kevin Macy. You talk about one of the best black owned and operated law firms in the city. That's it. And then we got Marnie Jo Snyder. Marnie Jo Snyder, I kind of call a sister. She's a white woman, but she's been committed to the cause of black liberation through the courts her entire career. And last but not least, yours truly, Michael Cord. We filed a historic lawsuit, and there are other lawyers who were suing people, but I didn't want to join them. I wanted to join this group because we want change. We don't really want the money like the other lawyers do, where all they do is focus on the money. Yeah, clients should be compensated, but what happens is a cop kills somebody today, gets his job back tomorrow, and then can kill somebody else the next day. We want real changes. We want serious changes. So, folks, in about 30 seconds, we're going to go to the press conference, which is being presented via Zoom. You can hear it on your radio, and I'm assuming that you probably will be able to see it on WURD, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cut to that right now for about 15 minutes, and we'll be right back in about 15 minutes after that. As a matter of fact, what we're doing is, and I appreciate our producer extraordinaire, he's giving me an update. He's saying, hey, Mike, we're ready to do this shortly, but they're setting things up, and once they get everything set up in connection with the press conference, they're going to get started. So right now, all the microphones are being adjusted, people getting in their places, the reporters are showing up by way of Zoom. So thanks to our producer, I do know that. So let's do this, folks, before we get to that. And folks, please, you got to check it out. As soon as it starts, we'll let you know it's going to start in just about 2 minutes. Let's quickly do this. Let's talk to Malik in Mount Airy on line 3 before the press conference. Malik, how can we help you, or how can you help us?
Let's say,
and Malik,
always.
Okay, go ahead. We got you. Go ahead.
I always want to say thank you, because you're fighting a fight that, for some of us that don't have a voice to fight. I say always thank you for being the voice of the ancestors. That being said, I need us to remember the reason why we have this day called Memorial Day. It's a lie that they turned into. It's actually called Decoration Day, and it was for fallen soldiers, Union soldiers that were black and slaughtered at the South Carolina Charleston, Washington Country Club, and it was about 260 soldiers that they exhumed, black free slaves exhumed and rebury each soldier that was lost. And they don't tell you that, but they paint up a story of all these soldiers that fought for us, but they don't tell you the real reason why we had this day. They don't tell you that the first day was on May 31st, and they had black people set up a parade, songs. They threw they had a march, flowers, prayers, and they even served food. But they don't give us. They keep giving us the lies and not the truth. But the beauty of today is I can go find the truth, because they don't want you to find the truth. They'll lie, and they'll put it in a book, or they'll put it behind your head and say it never happened. Today, I want to say thank you for the ancestors that fought in the Civil War, and that's why I celebrate this day they call Decoration Day, not Memorial Day.
Very well said, Malik. We appreciate you pointing that out. In fact, many people who study history know that the Civil War was being lost until black folks got weapons and were able to rise up. So we appreciate you, Malik, for explaining the whole concept of Decoration Day. And again, folks are going to get to the press conference very, very shortly, but we don't want to hold you all up because we know you're waiting patiently. So before we go to the press conference, let's talk to Razakan in West Philly on line 4. Razakan, how are you today? And Razakan, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead. The microphone is yours.
Oh, okay. I surely appreciate you, Bob. And thanks for taking the call. But I wanted to say something about something I heard Joe Biden say. But I just wanted to make mention to something, how people think, or, when elders give you advice, or whatever the case may be, how it be implanted in your mind. My grandfather used to say, all thoroughbreds run on the same track.
I love it.
You told me to watch Shamari, and I watched, you had been telling me to watch Shamari. That means to me that you see something of you in him that makes it worth paying attention to.
I love it. I love it.
But now what I want to say about Joe Biden, man, I am so fearful that we have absolutely nobody to fight for us, because they don't need them Democrats like that or the Republicans like that. He got on national television and said that he didn't want to embarrass the Republicans that voted against all his policies.
Let's do this, Razakan. We got to cut to our press conference. We're going to come back to you, or call us back after the press conference, and we'll bring you right up. But the press conference, don't forget where you are.
Because I want to hear the press conference too.
We'll be right back, folks. Press conference about to start right now. Big shout out to our producer who gave me a heads up, so we're going straight to the press conference regarding the historic police brutality lawsuit.
Some of those reform efforts that we'd like to see happen and that we are working on. We also will introduce a video that includes footage from the 676 police brutality, some that has not been shared before through us and on your networks. We will, as I said before, give you access to that video. You'll be able to download it during this press conference. So what we're going to do today, the outline, Paul will begin by talking about the history of police brutality in Philadelphia, and also about the militarization of police tactics in Philadelphia. I will then come on and introduce the video by giving kind of a little bit of a background about the movement that we're seeing against police brutality. And after the video is played, which is about a little more than 6 minutes long, Marnie will then come on and talk a little bit about our clients. And then Paul and Marnie will conclude with some talks on the reform efforts that are being made. And at that point, we'll take some questions from you. So with that being said, Paul, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Rather. I just want to start out by saying it's an honor to represent each and every one of our plaintiffs. Our clients have demonstrated tremendous courage in stepping forward and bringing this lawsuit to hold the police department and the city accountable, because that's the real issue. The issue is transparency and accountability, and we'll talk about that towards the end. But in order to put this in context, we need to know a little bit about the history of police brutality in this city. Going back decades, going back to when Frank Rizzo was both police commissioner and then subsequent to that, mayor of Philadelphia, there was a deep entrenched culture of historic misconduct, brutality, and institutional racism. And that misconduct and institutional racism has been perpetuated over time. It has been examined by government officials, it's been examined by commissions, examined by reporters and human rights activists. In fact, in 1979, the United States Department of Justice filed a civil rights suit against the City of Philadelphia Police Department based on the systemic misconduct and brutality that had existed for a long period of time. Federal government had to intervene, as they have done in a number of cities throughout this country. What the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests did was spark a renewed effort to focus on police brutality throughout the country, about what modern day policing should be, but also what the history of policing has been in this country. In 1981, the United States Commission on Civil Rights recounted the failure of the police department in Philadelphia to protect the citizens and residents of Philadelphia against a pattern of misconduct and brutality that existed. 1978, 17 years later, 1998 rather, 17 years later, Human Rights Watch reported on the same pattern of misconduct. So we have a decades-old history of systematic brutality, misconduct, and racism. And we have a systematic, essentially a systematic examination by various bodies, reporters, government officials, and human rights advocates that has not led to any systematic or systemic institutional reform. And that's what we're seeking. That's what we are seeking, not only through the course of the litigation, but we're seeking also through various other efforts, grassroots mobilizing efforts, as well as political efforts. We'll talk about that in a minute. So in addition to the Philadelphia Police Department, there were police departments throughout the country that gained a foothold in this notion of warrior policing in response to the expansion of civil rights during the 1960s. The war on crime, the war on drugs became the way in which politically there was a justification for the expansion of federal money that poured into local police departments, including the City of Philadelphia Police Department. The first SWAT teams, Special Weapons and Tactics Units, were established in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. And they were to be used in extraordinary situations, barricaded individuals, where there were violence that threatened public safety. But the militarization of the police over the last few decades has turned the SWAT units, as we saw on I-676 last year, and in West Philadelphia a year ago yesterday. What we saw was the brutal effort on the part of the police department in Philadelphia to utilize military munitions and these tactics against peaceful protesters and residents simply living in their community. The origin of this culture of brutality, as I said, originates from this expansion of warrior police based on this war on crime and war on drugs, this ever-expanding effort. In 1997, Congress expanded authorization for the use of weapons to include counterterrorism, following a 1990 congressional authorization for the Defense Department to transfer surplus weapons, vehicles, free of charge, to local police departments throughout the country, including the City of Philadelphia. According to the Defense Department, state and local departments have received more than $4.3 billion in military hardware since the program's inception. Following 9/11, in this effort, this failed effort, this misguided effort in counterterrorism, in turning police departments into essentially spy organizations to spy on peaceful protesters and anyone who stands in opposition to government or corporate power, they expanded money into local departments for this purpose. 2011, a report by investigative reporters and journalists revealed that departments throughout this country had received $34 billion in grant funding from the Department of Homeland Security. In 2014, it was reported that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania had received close to 34,000 pieces of military equipment, which were acquired over almost 20 years. Almost 2,000 of these weapons of war were classified as tactical equipment, tanks, mine-resistant vehicles, and automatic weapons. The records show that the Philadelphia Police Department received an armored vehicle and 255 automatic weapons through this program. You're going to see a video in a few minutes, and the question becomes whether that armored vehicle you see in the video was the vehicle that the Philadelphia Police Department acquired through this program. This military style of policing, this warrior style of policing, is antithetical to public safety. It's antithetical to the First Amendment, as was reflected last year on I-676, and it's a threat to our democracy. Now, Riley's going to talk a little bit about the origin of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a critical part of our discussion and our examination of what you're going to see in this video. Riley?
Thanks, Paul. So with regards to the police brutality, we all know about the Black Lives Matter movement that was started and continued through the tragic murders of Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Michael Brown. The Black Lives movement soon spread across the country to many cities, including Philadelphia, and it is estimated that more than 28 million people took part in the protests last summer. During a pandemic, which reflected not a marginalized protest movement, or as the FBI characterized the movement, as a domestic terroristic threat, but one of the most significant public discriminations in support of civil rights in our history. A shift in the way we as society approach racism and policing and the racism that permeates our entire culture. Now, although the Black Lives Matter movement focused on police brutality, profile stops, and mass incarceration, the impact over the past 12 months has reached every aspect of our lives. The tragic murder of George Floyd brought a resurgence to the movement that reflects century-old struggles to achieve racial justice. Mr. Floyd's on-camera murder did not change the response of law enforcement in Philadelphia. Developed over the course of decades, the peaceful protests that occurred on May 31st and June 1st in 2020 were met with violent and brutal military-style attacks. Our lawsuit serves to answer those brutal attacks. The irony is not lost on us that those who were protesting police brutality were met with police brutality here in Philadelphia. And as you'll see from this video, that police brutality was in full force last summer. And although we are showing you video only from the I-676 protest, again, we are discussing and approaching and addressing also the police brutality that occurred in West Philadelphia. So this time I'm going to show you the video from I-676.
Necessary.
Let's go! Hands up! Hands up!
Touch your face. Ah! You cool, you need some water, bro? Yeah, you need some water? Let's go! Come on!
There are about 100 people, maybe 70 people that are currently being arrested. And I don't know, every once in a while, they'll look up at us and shoot at us.
So this time, Marnie will come down and discuss, give you a little bit of information about our clients.
Good afternoon. Along with the other attorneys that you've seen on this video, and Michael Cord and Kevin Mincy, we represent a group of plaintiffs that are a diverse group of over 230 people who are peaceably protesting against the long history of systemic police misconduct and brutality in this country, and they were met with violence by the Philadelphia Police Department. Some people were otherwise existing in their own neighborhoods or watching the protests go by, and even those people were brutalized. The plaintiffs were subjected to law enforcement's shocking and unlawful actions. Our clients included residents that suffered injuries from tear gas deployed in West Philadelphia. On May 31st, 2020, while walking on the street, sitting on their porch, or even being inside of their homes. They include a grandmother shot walking on the sidewalk, shot in the head with a rubber bullet, a family observing the police attack from their home. They also include a pastor and his family who came to the location to observe the demonstration and ended up getting attacked by a SWAT team with tear gas. They also include white people who are willing to use their bodies and privilege to try to protect Black protesters. Our clients include a lawyer that came out to observe the protest and was attacked with tear gas. On June 1st of 2020, our clients, including many who were marching for racial justice and injured by the brutal police attack on I-676, they include a former Israeli soldier shot with rubber bullets, a former naval serviceman, a Vietnam veteran, all peacefully marching for racial justice and all struck with rubber bullets fired by police. Our clients include university students, workers, teachers, educators, activists, and children. On May 31st, in residential and commercial areas in West Philadelphia, police unleashed tear gas and rubber bullets using violent control tactics against peaceful demonstrators. Plaintiffs were among those residents and observers who were present in West Philadelphia and fired upon by police. On June 1st, the largest demonstration, including thousands of people, took place in Center City on the Vine Street Expressway. Police officers on the scene did not attempt to stop any of the protesters who were entering 676. The police officers on the scene allowed them onto the highway, and as protesters marched along the highway, chanting and waving signs, drivers whose cars were stopped by the demonstration were honking their horns and waving at people, high-fiving them as they were protesting. Many drivers and passengers got out of their cars and chanted with the protesters to show their support, and the demonstration had remained peaceable. Without provocation or warning, however, police officers began to fire tear gas at the demonstrators. And as demonstrators began to frantically flee, the police officers continued to fire tear gas and less than lethal munitions at them. Through their use of tear gassing and their positioning of their bodies, police personnel had the crowd controlled and moving up a hill without a way to get away. You'll see that the fence there blocked everyone's passage to even get off the highway. Trying to obey the police commands was impossible. As demonstrators were trapped on that embankment, officers continued to fire tear gas canisters and rubber projectiles, leaving the protesters trapped and suffocating in a cloud of tear gas and smoke. Video recordings made by people at the scene were rapidly posted to social media platforms, showing protesters overcome by the gas, screaming in a disturbing echo of George Floyd's last words, "I can't breathe." The video presented today provides further evidence of this brutal attack. On June 25th, the New York Times published a visual account created by one of our clients based on an online compilation of videos collected from the scene. Based on that report, it was clear that the protest on the Vine Street Expressway was not violent and that the police use of force on protesters was excessive. This newly discovered video compilation provides further evidence that the conclusion and proves that the police violence on the peaceable protesters was in fact unprovoked. The video within hours of the publication of that New York Times video, Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney and Commissioner Danielle Outlaw conducted a news conference in which they both apologized for their use of force against peaceable protesters. Immediately after the news conference, Mayor Kennedy sent a tweet conceding that members of the police department used completely unacceptable force and stated that he is also accountable. No such apology was issued to any of the residents of the West Philadelphia corridor. The video we released today completely refutes the police narrative published last fall and confirms that our clients' collective accounts of what happened on June 1st, 2020 on I-676 was in fact the truth.
Paul, we're going to go to you now if you want to talk about efforts of reform.
Yeah, I'm going to talk in broad strokes. We are currently engaged in negotiations with the city of Philadelphia regarding reforms that our clients seek. But what I can say, without getting the specifics because of those negotiations, is our clients seek the end of paramilitary-style munitions on peaceful protests and within residential communities. It's unacceptable. And as Marnie just alluded to, based on the video, we know this kind of brutality is unjustified and unwarranted in our democracy. We also seek, just broadly, transparency and accountability. That's the key to democratic control over police departments, which are essentially untethered by the democratic process. That accountability and control and community control, political control, is reflected in broad efforts by city council, which Marnie will talk about in a minute, but also by our clients who have been fighting and struggling for grassroots reform, many for decades. What we seek is a reordering of priorities within the police department, a shifting of resources away from the warrior policing model to a more accountable model that serves the public by providing resources for both drug treatment and mental health when calls are received for intervention. We also seek a more effective disciplinary process within the police department, better training, and obviously a sense of commitment to uprooting and eradicating the systematic racism within the department. I want to thank my colleagues and the other plaintiffs' teams who have been involved in this effort, and I'm certain that we will have more to report in the future. At this point, I want to turn it over to Marnie to talk a little bit about some of the efforts made outside of the litigation towards these significant reforms. Marnie?
I think on behalf of this team and all the legal teams, we'd really like to thank Councilmember Curtis Jones, his talented staff, and his colleagues on council for the recent repeal of the portion of the Philadelphia Code that created the Police Advisory Board, replacing it with the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. We are grateful that there is going to be true civilian oversight, the police department accountability to the citizens of Philadelphia. And we hope to continue to work with City Council on ways that the police can be held accountable, that there can be more transparency in the system in regards to discipline, in regards to a demilitarization effort. We recognize that any litigation certainly has boundaries, certainly has limitations. We're grateful to the extent that this litigation was helpful in shining a light on things that needed to change in Philadelphia. We hope to work with City Council as the Oversight Board comes into fruition and has rules and regulations that help it form and hold the police accountable for misconduct in the future. So we'd like all of the thanks to go to Councilmember Jones and his staff at this time, and really thank City Council for their efforts.
So at this time, we're going to, well, first of all, you should have seen in the chat up here the link to the video. So if you click on that, you should be able to download it. Again, if anyone's having any problems accessing it, feel free to contact me afterwards and we can provide you with a copy. But this should serve as, in the chat, should serve as you receiving a copy of the video for your use. At this time, we will, actually, I will take off the spotlight so that we can kind of open it up for questions. We'll take a few questions from individuals who may have them, and I hope you're all familiar with the Zoom features. You can just simply raise your hand and I'll call on you for any questions that you may have. Joseph Holden has raised his hand.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to ask the question. Just curious, how many hours of footage have your clients provided in whittling down that to that?
And folks, they are doing a Q&A right now, so we are going to cut away. You heard what you heard. For many of you, I just assumed that you could see everything, but you could hear the video, but you really need to see the video. How do you see the video? I'll send you the Zoom link. How do you get the Zoom link from me? All you got to do is email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. That's michaelcordx@gmail.com. MICHAELCOARD, the letter X @gmail.com, and say, hey, Mike, I heard that great interview, that press conference on WURD. I now want to see that shocking video that the world has never seen before. I want more information about this historic lawsuit that you 5 lawyers have actually filed. I want to know more about what you did, what Paul Hetznecker did, what Riley Ross did, what Kevin Mincy did, what Marnie Jo Snyder. We are not focused on dollars. We're focused on change. I say, what does that mean? We're not like most lawyers who are vampires and simply want to go around and get rich off of black people who get beaten and killed. Well, yeah, their families ought to be compensated through compensatory damages, but more important than that, there has to be real change. And you heard Paul Hetznecker talk about that, the reordering of priorities, the shifting of resources away from warrior policing to mental health assistance and drug rehabilitation, talked about disciplining bad cops and getting better training. But the most important thing that Paul said was ending systemic racism in the police department. We've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. WURD 96.1 FM.
Get in and get seen at the Einstein Orthopedics Fracture Care Clinic. If you think you've broken a bone or have been told by your doctor that you have a fracture, the Einstein Fracture Care Clinic offers same-day, in-person, or telehealth appointments. We don't just give you peace of mind. Einstein Orthopedics provides answers when you need them. Visit einstein.edu/fracturecare to learn more.
Do you have what it tastes to solve Hers Flavor Mix Mystery? 1 chip, 3 classic Hers flavors, thousands of possible combinations. Pick up a bag of Hers Flavor Mix Mystery and make your guess online today. Your guess could win you $10,000 and a year's supply of Hers. Visit Hers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more info on how to enter. Solve the mystery. Break out the Hers. No purchase necessary. Legal residents of the 50 United States, DC, 18 years of age and older. Ends 8/31/21. To enter and for official rules, including odds and prize descriptions, visit campaign.rtm.com/Hers Flavor Mix Mystery/ void where prohibited.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
That is absolutely correct. You are listening to The Source. And I'm going to get back to the phone lines, folks. Call us. We got stuff we want to cover, important stuff we want to cover. We got guests coming up, but we got to get to the callers. The numbers are 215-634-8065. Once again, 215-634-8065. Toll free, 866-361-0900. 866-361-0900. We have a guest coming up in about a half an hour or so, so we want to squeeze in as many of the calls as we can. And once again, folks, if you want to see that new and dynamic and explosive video that we presented during our press conference, just contact me, michaelcordx@gmail.com, MichaelCoard, the letter X as in Malcolm X, michaelcordx@gmail.com. And I got to tell you, I am so proud to be with a team of lawyers who understand what the great Charles Hamilton Houston, he was the mentor of Thurgood Marshall. He was the brains behind the civil rights movement. He's known as the man who killed Jim Crow. Charles Hamilton Houston said that a lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite on society. Many of these lawyers you see on TV are parasites on society. They make money off of Black death. And that's why we say in our group, and I say, we don't focus on dollars. We focus on change. That doesn't mean that we're not fighting to get all the compensation our clients deserve, but it's more about change than it is about dollars. Change, change, change. Folks, I know you want to get in, so we're going to get you in. Maurice, North Philly, we're going to go to Maurice and Razakan. Call us back. We'll get you in, but we appreciate Maurice being patient. We're going to turn it over to him. Maurice, the microphone is yours.
Hey, Brother Mike. I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention. Something with the bass because it's echoing. One of the things I wanted to highlight, when we're talking about the history and the chronological history that we have as far as Tulsa, Oklahoma, and other Black communities, we have to put it in the right context. Here, you know, we look at Georgetown, Black Georgetown. They've been the richest Black community, wealthiest community for 200 years. No one talk about them. No one talk about how they was pushed out of Georgetown into Prince George County, Maryland. Not only that, we haven't talking about what was going on in the South at the time Tulsa was being attacked and other Black Wall Street was being attacked. What was transpiring up in the North, in Detroit, and Chicago, and New York, hell up in Harlem, where they were being attacked because we controlled the Black numbers that we created, the policy. And we had policy kings and policy makers where you had big established policy houses. So while the South was fighting one fight, the North was fighting another fight. We was being attacked by something we created and doing for self. And I think we have to put that history in the chronological order so you'll see that all that history taps into one another, and even though it's in different regions, the same fight was the fight. It's just that the North was doing what they was doing, and the South was doing what they was doing. I think moving forward, we have to get something to chronologize our history so we can tell our own story. Because right now we hear a lot of stories, but we have to put it in the right context so we know that this is the truth. And what I learned, Mike, by researching, once I learned how to shepherdize law, I learned how to cross-reference information that allowed me to go deeper into information that helped me do my research on economic history. That's how I improved my research on black history. So that's all I want to say, Mike, and I thank you for letting me say this. Thank you.
Hey, man, I appreciate you being patient. I appreciate you explaining that. And when I hear somebody talk about shepherdizing, then I know they really know what the law is about. Don't come to me with some 1956 case and tell me that's the law. Shepherdize that and bring it up to 2020 and 2021. So, Maurice, you know what you're talking about. Thank you very much for the call, Maurice. And those of you who want to be like Maurice, give us a call, 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. What I didn't say at the beginning of the show, I'll say now. This show, the catchphrase for today's show is never forget, always avenge. I'm going to talk about not only Black Wall Street, I'm going to talk about slavery, and I'm going to talk about 1492 and all the stuff that's happened to us. And that's why my mantra is never forget, always avenge. And just for those who need to know, avenge and revenge are two different things. I'm not saying we should kill white people. I'm not saying we should pick up guns. I'm not saying we should enslave the descendants of the people who enslaved us. That's revenge. Revenge is doing to them what they did to us. I'm not talking about that. That's why I didn't say never forget, always revenge. I said never forget, always avenge. Revenge focuses on the victimizer. Avenge focuses on the victim. So when you talk about avenging, you're talking about helping up and lifting up and protecting and defending the victim. That's why we say, and today's mantra for today's show is never forget, always avenge. We're talking about what happened exactly 100 years ago from today and yesterday, because the Black Wall Street thing was 2 days, a total of 18 hours from May 31, 2021 until June 1921. Once again, from May 31, 1921 for about 18 hours until June 1, 1921. Today is June 1, 2021. So that's exactly 100 years to the very day. I'm going to talk more about that. But folks, I got to talk to you all, or better stated, y'all got to talk to me. Next up, Derek, North Philly, line 2. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Brother Michael. Love, peace, blessing, and prosperity to you.
Very same to you.
I'm maintaining, Mike, maintaining. What I'll call to speak for today is, Mike, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on last week unsigning of the Mr. George Floyd bill. I think that's a atrocity. I think that it was a shamble that President Biden invited the family to the White House for basically, in my opinion, a photo shoot because he didn't have anything really to offer them.
Amen.
He gave out money and then a photo shoot. But because, Mike, you know that at the time the family should have came there, he should have had nothing but good news to give to them, stating that it's been signed and it will go into order. And I didn't appreciate.
And let me say this, Maurice, before you go on, let me just say this, and I appreciate you calling in, Derek. I'm sorry, I'm going to let you talk as long as you want to, but I'm so glad you're calling President Biden out, because many people thought that because I supported him that I love him. I don't love Joe Biden. I hated that fake orange president before him. So my thing wasn't about supporting Biden. It was about destroying Trump. So now people like you and me can go after Biden for being a hypocrite. And when I say hypocrite, we got him in to do the job, but he's backing off. He backed off in regard to the Zionist Israeli government slaughtering the Palestinians, and now regarding police reform. Go ahead, Derek. Keep talking.
Yes, sir, Mike. You're right on it, Mike. And I just was upset with Reverend Al Sharpton being the precursor of making an announcement stating that we rather have a bill that's late with teeth than a bill on time with no teeth. Michael, you already know that it's already late. So what is Reverend Al Sharpton talking about? We rather have one. It's late already. And I think that
Derek, don't stop talking. Derek, keep talking, man. You naming names.
That 2-3 days before it came to fruition, he was already minimizing the movement by saying what we rather have late. It's already late, and he knows it's late, and Biden knows it's late. The other thing, Michael, when we talk about reform, people talk about the 14th Amendment, and I get that, Mike, but the 14th Amendment in the beginning states that of no privilege or abridgment be held to any citizenship of the United States. But yet and still, we're the only citizenship that in getting incarcerated can be treated like a slave.
Yes, sir.
So I find exception to that, Michael, that why are we tolerating certain things like accept and think that the 14th Amendment will apply itself to us when the 13th Amendment before it gives conditions to when such a subject could be even discussed or taking place, Michael. The other thing I want to say real briefly too, Michael.
And we got 30 seconds, Derek. 30 seconds.
Now that Mike, you know, we stood down there. We went to the school district of Philadelphia with Dr. Ed Robinson Jr. I had the privilege that day to shake his hand, Michael, and I'll tell you no lie, I felt electricity from his body leave and entered mine and bounced back to him, Mike. So on the strength of that, Michael, they're really talking about reform and Afrocentric studies in the lower grades, from the lower grades on up. Let's go to the Dr. Ed Robinson Jr. Curriculum that the school district paid them for. You know, Mike.
In fact, what I need you to do, Derek, contact me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. MichaelCoard, the letter X, michaelcordx@gmail.com. My organization, ATTACK, ATAC, Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, we're reviving that curriculum, that pervasive curriculum created by the great Dr. Ed Robinson. So, Derek, email me. I'll give you the information. I want to bring you onto the team.
Thank you, Mike. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call, Derek. We got a guest coming up in about 15 minutes. We got to keep things moving because folks want to get their words in edgewise. So we just finished with Derek in North Philly. Let's go to South Philly and talk to Tom. Tom in South Philly. How can you help us, or how can we help?
You mind me so much to see some more. I used to drive him. You talk about your hair.
Hey, man, I'm going to give you an extra half hour. You just said Cecil B. Moore and Michael Cord in the same sentence. I'm turning the show off.
Because I used to drop it. He used to say, he be smoking his cigars and drinking. And he say, you got a lot of black folks. Black places in high places. That's all he said. And that's all I mean, like the lawyers running. Every time somebody gets killed, they want to get paid.
That's
they
it.
Worry about what the cop did.
And Tom, and nothing changes. They get paid, but nothing changes in that police department. Nothing changes in that city.
And I watched things you say, and I seen Frank Rizzo so famous, but to this day, that he just paid $7,000 last year for his Billy Club. They argued it off. So Frank got paid $7,000 at Billy Club. I'm like, and he said, you got people that hating on you. Because, you know, he talked that racial stuff. You talk it like it is. I mean, you don't go like with the bull and every time somebody dies, we feel you're sorry. You got prayers and wishes. I mean, come on.
Hey, man, you know what Brother Malcolm said?
Get paid, put it back down, they was off.
Well said. You know, Brother Malcolm said we got to stop singing and start swinging. And I'm not advocating violence. I'm going to explain what I meant by that because I wrote an article that included that line in Tribune. We're going to get to that later. But I'll give you the final 30 seconds, Tom. You on the roll. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, he just say things that I want to say at 80 years old. I forgot. Well, I had a lady say this one, well, we just showing these. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I live in a neighborhood that's 99% black. And all the sudden, the Korean, I didn't see no Korean people hanging with us. Now we got a different color. We black and white. Now we got, we people of color. Where that come from? How come we get people of color?
I hear you.
didn't see no water holes on no Koreans or Mexicans or nobody. And I think what Korean people got it on us. Because they passed a law last week for hate crime against Korean people.
Yep.
1 week.
Yep.
They didn't march. They didn't march to do nothing. We've been trying to get hate crime for 20 years. Yeah, I mean, you have a man, I don't know, you probably ain't getting paid shit. But I tell you one thing, you talk like it is,
and you might not get paid in cash, but I mean, I'm going like, I ain't never heard no black man talk like that.
Hey, man, I'm a free black man. I'm liberated.
No, I hear you say that all the time. Nobody owe you like that.
And that's why I never ask for any money, any jobs, any grants from any politician. I don't accept it, and I don't request it.
Let me ask you one question before I go. I seen this black politician, I can't think of his name.
Got 20 seconds, Tom, 20 seconds.
He said he ain't see no, what did he say? He said ain't no black discrimination in America or something, he said. I can't think of his name. I'm going like, Scott, I think his name was. He said,
Let me say this.
Thing.
Tom, you're on the warpath. Tom. We got to run, Tom. But, man, don't be a stranger. Give us a call back. And thank you, sir.
Like Caesar Moore.
And you started with that, and you ended with that. Tom, thanks for the call. We're going to keep things moving, and we appreciate all our callers, Germantown Joe and Reverend Joe and Malik and Razakhan. Razakhan, call us back. We had to cut you off to get to the press conference. We need you back, Razakhan. We talked to Maurice. We talked to Derek, and we just talked to Tom on the warpath. In about 2-3 minutes, we got to take a commercial break. So let's now talk to Phyllis on line 4 in Mount Airy. Phyllis, how are you today?
I'm great, and yourself, Michael.
Fighting the good fights, winning most of them.
And I just wanted to call and say, I want to commend you on all your efforts. You've been doing great things for many years. I've been following you for many, many years. And I just want to say, keep up the good work. Just keep up the good work.
In fact, is that the only reason you called, to thank me and say that?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Phyllis, you made my day. Usually people want something or need something. All you wanted to do was say thank you for your service. I really appreciate that, Phyllis. You made my day. Thank you very much. But don't be a stranger. Call me and call the radio station anytime you want to talk about anything.
I'm always listening.
Phyllis, thank you very much. And we got to keep things moving. I hope this is George from Center City. Yep, it is. I see George. I just saw Center City. Every time George calls, he always, as my co-host on Sunday, young man by the name of Ant Brown, who's about 24, 25 years old, he thanked George on Sunday for dropping jewels. And for the older folks who don't know what that means spreading knowledge. So whether you agree or disagree with George from Center City, he drops jewels. George, the microphone is yours.
How you feel today,
Fight the good fights, winning most of them, man.
That's good.
And by the way, George, I stole your line about the whole death hustlers thing. I used that in a speech the other day. I love that phrase. Go ahead.
Well, death hustlers, they really mad at everybody. But let me tell you what, and I love and respect Mayor Kenny for one thing. He don't hide what he does. I mean, every time he get one of these fools around, or he got to make a call to him, he makes sure I hear it. And you know what his latest thing is, Mike? He's notified all his flunkies that don't get paid, right? This is the sad part about it. They kissing his butt and get nothing for it. White folks is mad at the mayor.
And let me say this, George, before you go on, George. We're not going to talk about it on air, but I got to tell you, George told me some inside stuff about some black activists who got paid off, and you no longer hear about them. It hurt my heart when George told me, because that was like being a kid, and you find out there's no Santa Claus. I just wanted to say that. Please continue, George.
Well, the mayor has notified his flunkies, and you hear them on URD. They don't get paid, but they love to just do what Master Boss say, And white folks is mad at Kenny now because of that girl, that young lady that got paralyzed up there in wherever it was, that white nurse. She was going to school to be a nurse. Then you got in Queen Village, where he lived at, you had him killed in a car, and the guy got killed in the sister and killed. So you got rich white people in this city that's on his butt. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. Same thing I told you, that she was overwhelmed, that she don't know what she's doing. Now he got to get his Negroes in line to praise her, which they're going to do. They're going to call her and say, well, we got to stick with her no matter what. She ain't qualified. They're sucking on a pig feet bone trying to get the marrow out of it, And that is sad that we're in a city that we have to always kiss up, suck up, and get nothing for it. Talk about the Asians, they raised hell and they got what they wanted. Everybody who raised hell, you know why we don't get nothing? Because of these special group of Negroes who go in the room and make deals. They always talking about they making a deal for everybody, making a deal for themselves, personally. And you just watch, Mike, how it plays out. Now let me really put you on the right track about this phony.
And George, you got 30 seconds up against the clock for the commercial break. We got 30 seconds.
I can do it. This police reform is the biggest joke and hoax that's ever hit this city.
George, hold on, George. George, I don't want to cut you off, and I don't want you to hang up. I want to debate with you on that point you just made. So, George, hold on. We'll be right back. WURD 96.1 FM.
If you're struggling with alcohol or drugs, Recovery Centers of America can help. RCA's local inpatient and outpatient programs are founded on science and delivered with heart from an expert, caring team who will inspire and guide you every step of the way. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now to speak with a treatment advisor. At RCA, you'll be in a community that builds connections and fosters support from peers and RCA's team of medical professionals and recovery support specialists. At RCA's state-of-the-art campuses in Devon, PA and Mays Landing, New Jersey, they tailor your treatment to you and also offer specialized programs for patients with history of trauma, for patients who have achieved recovery but are experiencing a relapse, for young adults, adults 50 years and older, a confidential program for first responders and military, and a faith-based program. RCA answers the phone and accepts patients 24/7. And because it's local and in-network with insurance providers, treatment is affordable and accessible. Don't wait. Call 1-888-RECOVERY today.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
That is absolutely correct. You are listening to The Source, and The Source is hosted normally by Sister Warrior Andrea Lawful Sanders. However, she's not here today doing what she does so very well. So, thanks to her and Director of Programming, Dee Patel, yours truly, Michael Cord, a.k.a. Michael X, a.k.a. the angriest black man in America. Let's do this. We got to go to a guest in a couple minutes, but we got George on the line. And George talked about CPOC, and CPOC is actually the commission that will address the issue of police misconduct. CPOC is CPOC. That's the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. And George just said it was a joke. I'm going to let George respond, but I testified at a recent CPOC hearing. I submitted a written statement and a statement at the hearing back on May 16. And let me just read this, and I'm going to turn it over to George. George said it's a joke. I say it's not. I concede it's not the best thing since sliced bread. That's never going to happen at the outset. But it's a great step in the right direction. Let me just say this in 10 seconds, then turn it over to George. This is what I say in my 3-page letter, but I'm just going to read to you the pertinent part. The CPOC will be, quote, independent, bold, and reflective of the geographic and population diversity of the city and designed in a way that answers the demands of the city. Moreover, it will have the authority to issue subpoenas to compel witness testimony from police officers or documents for investigations. It would also retain its own chief counsel separate from the city's law department, and it will make disciplinary and policy recommendations to the police administration. It would also receive and investigate all citizens' complaints against police. In addition, it will be investigating all incidents, I said all incidents, when an officer discharges a firearm, and all incidents where someone dies or is seriously injured during a police interaction. That's impressive, but it goes on, as set forth in the CPOC document, that it may, quote, recommend charges and discipline, unquote. So is it the best thing to end police brutality overnight? No, but it's certainly a great big step in the right direction. I'm going to shut up and turn it over to George and hear his rebuttal. Go ahead, George.
Wow. You know, you remind me of Jack McMahon closing out. You know, you sound like Emmett Fitzpatrick closing out.
And see, when you mention those two names, those are some of the greatest lawyers in Philadelphia history. But go ahead.
Yeah, great theatrics. Mike,
you're right. You're right. And George, it works with the jury.
Right, it does. But God forbid if it don't. You know.
But go ahead, George. We got 2 minutes.
Let me say this here, Mike. Who, if you had a board, would you put somebody on there that don't do what you say? Yes or no?
Well, no.
Right.
But
and
George, I'm gonna give you the final word, but that's not what's happening here. Based on not only what went public, but what I know about some lawyers who are
They get
actively
contracts,
involved,
Mike.
and that's all I can say over the air. But you and I can talk privately about it. But go ahead.
Right, Mike. They're going to get contracts. Everybody on that thing is going to get taken care of. You don't put people in place that don't do what you want. Not on no boards, not no commissions. Black folks believe that. Oh,
That's
yeah,
a great.
got,
That's a
you
great
ain't got
point.
nothing.
That's a great point.
You ain't got nothing. Okay, that's to keep your mouth shut. Okay, everybody got their hands in that. Everybody's going to walk away with a truckload, Brinks truckload of money. Okay.
But George,
They gonna
I
they
have
got
an
contracts.
involvement in that. Do you think I'm going to allow that
Mike,
with my involvement in it?
Mike, there's things going on that you will never know. Okay, you'll be the radical in there, and the rest of them, they're going to get what they get and do what they're told. Now, you don't have to believe it. Just watch and see. You're not there all the time, and you won't
You're
be
right.
there all the time.
And I will agree, George. You know more about the inner workings of city council than I do. I'll give you that.
Mike, let me tell you something. It's worse than what they had before. Okay? It's bad enough that the police can't do nothing and won't do nothing. But then this whole thing started because the mayor owed a couple preachers a favor. And he a pleasing Negro. That's the only ones worried about is the black people. But they don't care. In 2 years, Kenny will be out of office. The next mayor come, take everybody off that, and put who he want in there. That's the way it works. Nobody want to hear that, but that's the way it works. Look at that op, the way they have all that money in the budget for like drones and different things. They don't use that. They tell you everything you want to hear to keep Negroes quiet.
But George, in regard to what you just said, the drones and all the other stuff, military stuff, that's part of this lawsuit that we filed that we talked about during our press conference today. So it's not just within the mayor's purview. It's also a federal judge that's going to look at all that stuff. We raised all that in our lawsuit.
Mike, he's just going to do that. Look at it. Because some of the best lawyers going to go down there and nobody know about it at 1:30, 2 o'clock and argue it. Okay? The police department really don't need all that stuff that they gave them, that military stuff.
You got 30
but
seconds,
they just
George.
have it. They have it. But, Mike, everybody on this hoax. But remember now, whose food you eat is whose song you sing. And watch the mayor's flunkies come on here. They're going to defend everything about the police commissioner, and not one of them going to say anything bad about this review thing here because they don't know nothing to say. I'm saying this here because of what I know, not what I think. And everybody else deal with their emotions. I don't have to deal with my emotions. I mean, I don't even get into that. Half the stuff I say, like, I don't even want to go through saying it. But it's not for me. It's for the other people who don't know.
And, George, that's what I respect about you. I mean, you and I have a disagreement on some issues like this, but you know what you're talking about. I got to give you that. Final 10 seconds, George. Go ahead.
Let me tell you, Mike, pay attention. Keep your mouth shut. That's all the listeners got to do. And watch the flunkies who call up and praise the commissioner. Ask yourself, what have they brought to the community other than praise and kissing up with them purple knee pads and that pink lipstick or purple lipstick they got on and a purple wig? That's the way they talk about it. When you're sitting around the table with them, they talk about URD callers like clowns. Yeah, listen to this clown. Elected officials that they worship talk about them, and I don't say nothing. Why should I get into an argument with people? I'm sitting here sucking all it. Like, really, I'm like the sponge, just sucking it. I don't believe it. And
George, like I said, you know what you're talking about. George, you got to run. Thank you, man, for calling in. I appreciate the fact that we can disagree without being disagreeable, and you do know what you're talking about. Having said that, folks, before we get to our guest, and I want to introduce them in just a second, and by the way, the folks who are waiting to get in, we haven't forgotten you. We will get you. I know we got Margaret. I know we got Ali. We got several others. Please be patient. We'll be right with you. Let me just say this. George raised the issue about this thing called CPOC, CPOC, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. I argue different from George. George says it's a joke. I'm like, no, it's not a joke. It's a great step in the right direction. First, it gets rid of the PAC, the Police Advisory Commission, which was a tiger with no teeth. There are teeth in the Citizens Police Oversight Commission because of what I laid out to you. If you want proof of how great this is as the first step, email me. I'll send you a copy of my May 16, 2021 letter, which gives credit where credit is due. And that goes to none other than Councilman Curtis Jones, Jr., because he and his staff put together an ingenious concept that will withstand legal challenges by the FOP. If George is right and CPOC is a joke, why is it that the FOP got its lawyers lined up already to invalidate it? If it's a joke, the FOP will just say, hey, CPOC is a joke, like 911 is a joke. But no, the lawyers for the FOP are already lined up around the block to argue against the legal validity of Councilman Curtis Jones's CPOC initiative. And I give credit to Councilman Curtis Jones. I give credit to Samantha Williams in his office and his entire staff. They took a great and bold step in the right direction. And those of you who want proof of what I'm saying, I'll send you my letter. Just email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. MichaelCoard, the letter X, michaelcordx@gmail.com, and say, yo, Mike, I need that powerful May 16 letter that you wrote prior to the city council hearing in connection with CPOC, CPOC, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. We're going to get to everybody. I know folks are waiting to get in. Please be patient. We'll get to you. But I have now a guest. I had him on about a week or so ago on a Sunday. I had him as part of a panel discussion. And you talk about a person with the solution to violent crime in the hood. You're talking about Samson Styles. Not only is this guy book smart, more important, he's street smart. So all the stuff I say as a lawyer and as a community activist, young people with guns don't want to hear that. I'm corny to them. But Samson Styles is not corny to them. He's actually known. They call him the official street cat. Let me talk to you about him, and then we're going to go right to him. Samson Styles is a formally adjudicated juvenile. In other words, he did time in juvenile jails for being a juvenile delinquent. But he didn't stop there. He's also a formally convicted felon, which means he spent time in a federal prison for committing adult crimes. But I don't call him an ex-con because what he did reminds me of what Malcolm did in prison. And what Samson Styles did was he used incarceration to develop impressive writing skills. He became a great writer while in prison. And then when he got released, he became an award-winning documentary filmmaker. And he focuses on young people and how they need to get their head on straight, but he don't talk to them like he's corny, like a lawyer, like a preacher, like a politician. He talks to them in the way that they could understand. Let me talk more about Samson Styles before we actually get him up. He's been, I told you, was an award-winning documentary filmmaker. He's a noted TV producer. You might say, well, what has he done? He's done stuff on BET. He's done stuff on Netflix. He's done some great work. And like I say, what he does is so impressive, so thoroughly impressive because he can reach the youth. We had him on the line. We had to switch to another line because we had a bad connection, and my producer will let me know when we have him on a separate line. As soon as we get Samson Styles on a separate line, our producer will let me know that we have him on a clean line, a clear line, so we can have him. Our producers are so thorough. Our producer just said, hey, Mike, I'm a step ahead of you. I got him on. Without further ado, Samson Styles. Samson, how are you today?
Ah, man, I'm great, brother. Partner, the connection. I don't know if it was my location or what.
Oh, not a problem, man. We got you. We can hear you loud and clear. I talked about you being a formally adjudicated juvenile. I talked about you being a formally convicted felon. I talked about your street cred, your prison cred, your book smarts, and how you're able to talk to young people in the way that corny lawyers like me can't talk to them, corny pastors and corny politicians. We all are well-intentioned, but we don't know the street life. You know the street life. You've lived the street life. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to talk to the listening audience. Let them know, how do we get to the youth? If there's a secret to getting the attention of young people and redirecting them to end gun violence, Samson, I'm turning the show over to you for the next 10, 12 minutes. What's the answer? What's the solution? Wow. The microphone is yours.
I appreciate that. First of all, you're not corny, man. What it is, once they get older and mature, they realize that, oh, wow, man, what Michael Cord was saying was correct.
Yes,
you know?
yes,
but it just takes for someone to look like them and that know that they can understand.
That's it. Amen. Amen. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. So.
And by the way, folks, as Samson begins to speak, especially the older folks, if you got teenage kids, if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s and you got grandchildren, jot down what this brother is saying, and at the end of his comments, he's going to give you his contact information. But I'm so impressed with him. I mean, he doesn't hold a PhD in sociology, but he's so thorough. Go ahead, Professor Styles. The microphone is yours.
I appreciate that. But the first thing to reach the youth is that, you know, we have to meet them where they're at and not be judgmental and let them know that, you know, like I teach a documentary filmmaking class to underprivileged and what they call at-risk youth. And when I come in there, the first thing I do is let them know that they could tell their stories. Like, you don't have to, you know, speak properly or don't think that.
In fact, Samson, I want you to continue that. This is the last time I'm going to interrupt you, but I want people to know that Samson knows he's like, this guy, and he's not proud of it, was a drug dealer. He was a street hustler. He was robbing drug dealers at gunpoint. He was kidnapping and tying up drug dealers. I mean, you talk about a gangster, and I'm not saying all that about him so that you can say, oh, he's the real deal. No, I'm saying because he did that and understands that. You talk about been there, done that. Once young people hear what he went through and the mistakes he made, they'll listen to him. Samson, I'm not going to interrupt you anymore. Keep talking.
No, you're correct. You're correct. Because that's one thing I do in the beginning of the introduction when I introduce myself to the young people that I'm teaching. I let them know exactly where I've been, what I've been through, and let them know that, you know, what they see and what they're doing, I've already been through that. And I can give them a true testament of what's the outcome of that going to be. You know, so the first thing I do, I don't judge them. You know, let them tell their story. About their pants hanging down, I don't even judge that. I said, you know what? When we was coming up, we had Adidas with no laces in them. Same thing. And our parents was like, what are you looking? You looking like a fool. You know, what are you doing? Right? So, you know, I let them know, hey, I can relate. You know, you got styles that we may not be able to relate to. We did the same thing. But I let them tell their stories and let them feel comfortable telling their truth. Now, to be able to put a pressure or put a pulse to the gun violence that's happening, you got to understand the culture, what's going on with these young folks nowadays, right? And it's similar to what we were going through when we was coming up, but the only thing now, they have more gang and peer pressure. When we were doing the things that we were doing, like, you know, like you said, I was robbing drug dealers, I was selling drugs. I participated in almost all street professions that they were, you know, at one time or another. When I was younger, I was pickpocketing and, you know, doing things, little robberies that led me to do juvenile detention bids and stuff like that. So it was mainly about money when I was coming up, though. Mainly about getting money and being fly, you know. But now it's about gang influence. It's the same, you know, crimes that's going on, but now it's a little more, it's less about money and it's more about just fitting in to this group or this gang, right? So, you know, the gang culture is a little different. It's because they have OGs, which may be 19, 20, 21 years old. They're the one that's basically giving these kids these orders, right? So the OG really has more control over that child than the parent has. Ooh. So if the OG says, yo, don't go to school today, I want you to go put in some work, I need you to go rob this, or I want you to go do that, or whatever it is that he wants them to do, they're going to have to do it according to that gang law and what they're living by now on the street. So the main thing is, just like when, you know, when you see those old TV pictures, movies, when the aliens come to, and they say, hey, take me to your leader, that's the first thing they say, take me to your leader. Because they know that's how they could get control. Take me to your leader. You know, because we want the ones that's basically giving out the rules and regulations to the people. So we know these young OGs is giving out the rules and regulations to these people. So those are the ones to catch and touch first. So in fact, Sansa, before you go on, and we appreciate you breaking down the OG thing, we're up against the clock for a commercial break. We want you to remember exactly where you stopped. So when we come back after the commercial break, you can pick up your thought right there. We're talking to the original, or I should say the official street cat, Samson Styles, telling you how you can get your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews in their teens and early 20s, get them on track. First to break, WURD 96.1 FM.
Last summer, Philadelphia stood up demanding justice and police accountability for the murders of George Floyd and Walter Wallace Jr. Hear firsthand accounts of the activism and the emotional toll in We Breathe, We Live, Brotherly Love Protest Stories, a first-person arts film presented by DBHIDS, Engaging Males of Color, premiering on Monday, May 24th at 8 p.m. on WHYY-TV and online. WURD Radio is a media partner for promoting mental wellness in Philadelphia.
The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
And we are back. When I say we, I mean myself and Andrea Lawful Sanders of, I should say, the host of The Source. Although she's not physically here, she is certainly spiritually here. She's taking a well-deserved break, and we'll be back in due course. But she, along with the Director of Programming and News, Dee Patel, said, hey, Mike Cord, you ain't doing nothing this afternoon. Why don't you sit in? I said, say no more. I'm right here doing that. Before we get back to our guest, Samson Styles, telling us about how we can do what we need to do to get the young people to put down the guns. He was talking about OGs, but before that, during the commercial break, I was checking my email, and folks, y'all blowing me up about this video. We had a press conference at 1:30, and I say we, myself and 4 other attorneys, held a press conference. Obviously, I couldn't physically be there because I'm doing a radio show, but we did the next best thing. We actually broadcasted that press conference from this show. And one of the things that I had hoped to do, but we couldn't do it, was to show you the videotape that they were showing during the press conference, but unfortunately, we couldn't do it that way. At least I couldn't do it that way. But the next best thing, I told people, hey, don't worry about it. Email me, and I'll send you a copy of that video. Also, if you want, I'll send you a copy of the lawsuit. The lawsuit is probably almost, 100 pages long, but it's a historic lawsuit. Of course, we want money for our clients who suffered pain and injury. We want money for them. That's called compensatory damages. But more than, or I should say, as much as, actually, no, more than, because you can get the dollar today and have no change tomorrow. What I mean by that, you see these vampire vulture lawyers running around from city to city as death hustlers, finding out who got beat bad by the cops, who got killed by the cops. These lawyers come in, they file a lawsuit, they get $5-10 million, they take a 40% cut, and then they on to the next one. But they never sought any changes. So what we're doing with our lawsuit that we talked about during the press conferences, yes, we're seeking compensatory damages to pay money to our clients who are injured. But the bigger focus is reforming the police, making changes in the police department. Because if you don't make any changes, nothing changes. We're talking about ending the use of tear gas and pepper spray and rubber bullets on peaceful protesters. We're talking about ending police brutality. We're talking about getting a federal judge to issue an order by way of either a consent decree or injunctive relief. We're talking about changing the face of policing in Philadelphia, unlike it's ever been before. So, folks, if you want a copy of the video that we showed today and a copy of the more than 100-page lawsuit, contact me at michaelcordx@gmail.com, MichaelCord, the letter X as in Malcolm X, michaelcordx@gmail.com. And those 50, 60, 70 who already contacted me, I'll get it to you. And those who want to join in, help yourself. Speaking of joining in, we're going to join back in the conversation with the official street cat. Samson Stiles, an award-winning documentary filmmaker who was a juvenile delinquent and an ex-con, spent time in juvenile facilities and federal prison because of his horrific background, but he turned a negative into a positive. He's talking to us about OGs and what their influence is. Samson, go ahead. Please continue.
Thank you. So I left off that was the OGs having influence over the youth, and basically they have more influence over them than their own parents in most cases. And when that occurs, we need to identify the OGs and pull them to the side and give them an incentive to basically be on your side and tell, you know, the kids to do the right thing.
And let's not assume our audience knows what we're talking about. What do you mean by OGs? What's that stand for? And then tell us about this phrase "unk." But please continue.
Right. So, well, I would be considered unk. A lot of the OGs and a lot of the gang members, they call me unk, and that's like an endearment title of respect. You know,
Uncle. Okay.
Yeah, instead of old head. An old head is kind of disrespectful a little bit. You know, if they look at the old head, it's like somebody that's, you know, that they really don't respect. I got
you.
Yeah.
So just so folks can follow us, we're talking about OGs, we're talking about old heads, and we're talking about unks. There's a difference. Please continue.
Right. Unk is short for uncle.
Yep.
So, you know, when they call you unk or uncle, you know, and I reply, hey, nephew, come over here, let me talk to you. It's more respect. It's like a family. They respected me as an older member of the family. So, you know, when you could pull those OGs, which is like, it's like the original gangsters or older gangsters to whatever gang set that it is. And once you could get a hold of them and you know who's in charge of those sets, you could basically pull them to the side and make arrangements with them. You know, like give them an incentive, you know, whatever it may be that you have to offer to basically tell your children or, you know, whatever child that you are concerned about to do the right thing. You know, so that's one thing. And also people that have budgets that is inclusive of community activists that are also aware, especially with the Cure Violence program and interrupters, they know this information very well. So they're able to go to these OGs and offer them, you know, whatever it is. You want your kid to finish school or whatever it is, like talk to this OG and let them know what your request is and what your interest is and how you need them to help you, first of all, right? Because now you're building a team that's on your side and that's concerned about your child, right? So, and the second thing, the women or people that have daughters, period, we have to have them change their mindset because the daughters, the women, they basically control the world, basically.
Ooh, break that down. Break that down for us.
Yeah, they basically control the world. So most of the stuff that these young guys are doing is for attention for these women, right? So if the women tomorrow say, hey, look, I'm not going to mess with some guy that's not finishing school, that's not on the right track because they're going to wind up being in jail, and I'm not trying to be a child. I'm not trying to be a child to someone that's going to be in jail and getting in trouble. I'm not messing with dudes like that. I want smart dudes that read, you know, Baldwin. and I bet you by tomorrow or by next week, you're going to see kids with men, young black boys, with Baldwin books.
So if the girls in the hood tell the boys in the hood to straighten up, the boys in the hood will straighten up.
Right. If they're not giving them no attention, for doing the wrong things, the brothers will straighten up. And that's a fact. Because most of the people, when I was in prison, in some form of fashion, it was about impressing the woman. So why do you want to get money? You want to get money so you can dress fly. Why do you want to dress fly? You want to drive nice cars, and you want to have flashy jewelry. Why? For the boys in the block? Nah. It's for them girls that walk by that go, oh, wow, he's cute. You know, that's the ones that you're doing this for. So 9 out of 10, most of the people that's in prison or you trying to get money or you whatever it is, it's for the likes of this woman. So if the woman has a different level of value, what she's peaking in a man, he's gonna try to uplift to, you know, to basically cater to those values that she has. And that's a known fact.
I got to tell you, man, you two for two. Please continue. We got about 3 minutes left, but you are breaking down. And at the end of your 3 minutes, you got to tell folks how they can follow you, how they can communicate with you, what it is you did and are doing with BET and Netflix. But go ahead. We got 3 minutes.
Okay. And the next thing is our police officials you have to engage them as far as the community police, because we have a thing that we don't want police around us. You know, they only bad news.
Yes.
For a lot of, and I could understand why we feel that way. But community polices are very important to have in the community, and we could, you know, basically protest for that. When you don't have police that's basically knowing the community, knowing that Miss Green over here.
Yes.
I didn't see Miss Green in 2 days. She usually go to the store right here by around 12 o'clock on my shift. Let me go and knock on her door and make sure Miss Green is all right.
Yes.
You know, we need those type of police again. I remember having those type of community police when I grew up, and it does help as far as bring the crime down and bring the love in the community.
Very well said, man. Don't stop, man. We got about 2 minutes left.
Okay, that police is using discretion. He or she is using discretion. They're not just using military tactics. They actually know the people that they're policing. So guess what? He may catch Ron with a gun, but he know Ron was getting bullied by Lee down the block.
Ooh.
Right? So now when you grab Ron with this gun, he's not going to just put a felony on him. He's going to say, yo, Ron, give me that gun, man. What is wrong with you, man?
Yes.
What is wrong with you, right? Because he know Ron is a good dude. That's Miss Green's son. He goes.
That is so. Yes, I love it.
Getting bullied.
I
So now
love
he
it.
can use his discretion. See, an average police that's just policing that neighborhood, they just catch Ron with a gun. They're going to use the military forces, locking them up. They're putting a felony on them. They're throwing them out to wash. But if you community police in that neighborhood, you know Ron don't really deserve to go to prison just because he got caught with this gun. He's trying to defend himself from Lee, and Lee is a big bully. And Ron can't take anymore. So now there could be some type of intervention.
I love it. I love
without
it.
him having that felony on his back. We need all of that. And then,
Samson, let's do this because we're running out of time, man. But I got to tell you, I want to have you back so you can spend more time breaking it down. But in our final 2 minutes, Samson, if you could just summarize the point you were making, but most important in those 2 minutes, how can folks follow you? How can folks contact you? Go ahead, Samson Styles, award-winning filmmaker.
So the most important thing with that, everything I said as far as getting to the OG, and then also having a young woman change their value, getting community police on board, you know, is policy. And if you look at what happened during white flight and how they changed the epidemic, what was going on with white-on-white crime back then, the same thing will work for us, right? So that's a whole nother story. But you can find me on IG at these Samson Styles. That's TheSansonStyles. These Samson Styles, and that's where I'm at mostly. That's where I'm most frequently on. You can also catch me on Twitter at Samson_Styles, and Facebook is Samson Styles. Watch the Netflix documentary Crack, Cocaine, Corruption, and Conspiracy. I was a consultant producer on that documentary. And I have a documentary out now that's on iTunes, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Xbox, and iTunes. It's called Killing Beats, Gun Violence in the Black Community.
Hey, man, you are a tremendous resource in the community. I got your cell number. You got my cell number. I want to have you back on periodically so you can talk more, much more about the solutions. You just gave us 3 or 4 items, and that's just the beginning, man. You need to be working in every city hall throughout the entire United States of America and just drop some of these jewels in the ears of the mayors. Samson Styles, thank you very much. We got to run, but I'll be reaching out to you off air so we can have you back on periodically.
I appreciate that. Thank you, man, for providing this platform. Appreciate it,
my pleasure. Thank you very much. And folks who want to follow him, who want more information about what he does, catch him on IG, Instagram at that's THEE, the Samson Styles. That's without a P. That's SAMSONSTYLES. You can catch him on Twitter at Samson_Styles. Great man doing some great work. You got to check out his films, his documentaries on Netflix, on iTunes, Apple TV, Amazon. He did some stuff with BET, doing some really, really good work in the community and for the community. We haven't forgotten about those who wanted to get in. I know a while back we had Margaret waiting, we had Ali waiting. Those of you who still want to get in, you can still get in. Just give us a call. The numbers are 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. 866-361-0900. In about, maybe 15, 20 minutes, we have another guest who's going to be talking about some important stuff that you all need to be aware of. I got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but let's see if we got Margaret. Let's see if we got Ali. If we got them, we're going to go to them. If not, you're going to hear more from me. Next up, I hope, Margaret. Margaret, are you with us?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Margaret. Go ahead.
Okay. I was briefly going over some of the situations that was happening back in the 60s and the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I had a brother myself who got...
And, Mark, you got to turn your radio down or off.
I don't have the radio on.
We're hearing feedback with echo. I'm not sure. Are you on a speakerphone?
No, I'm not.
All right, well, go ahead, but we're hearing something. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Keep
I hear
talking.
it too. I addressed issues under the Rizzo era. There were quite a few families that were being attacked by the Rizzo era. The Clark family, which claimed that Sad Clark was the first black killer of Philadelphia, which was a lie. And at the same token, I had a brother who had an incident, and he was taken to the roundhouse, basically by the police force. And when we called down there to find out when he was coming up for arraignment, his face was totally distorted. And I asked the judge there, how did he get like that? And no one answered the question. But basically, we went through that court case also with him. There were quite a few beatings of men at 55th and Woodland Police Station, 65th and Woodland Police Station, 55th and Pine. Plus, we have 300 Civil War veterans who were pulled up under the Vore Street and the Vine Street Expressway, who's now under the First Baptist Church at Eden Cemetery, buried, the bones of them. We have many incidents and situations here in the city. I was at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial yesterday and the Korean Veterans Memorial, and yet we still have to acknowledge the conditions and respect of each other. Please mask up, use your hand sanitizer, and continue to educate your children. Michael, you're doing a beautiful job. I've been with this city for 60 years. I have dealt with close to 8 situations. I'll talk with you, Michael. 8. I'm not black, but I was called black. I'm Indian. I was talked down. I'm the president of the Gold Star Wives, the military families. They'd rather have a white woman instead of me. I'm an Indian. You accept who I am. I don't care who you are.
Well
but
said.
Michael, what I want to
and
say,
Mark, we got to run. We got about 20 seconds left.
Last, most of all,
20 seconds.
We're going to address all the issues of racism and every police problem and any other problem that we need to. And I'm with you, Michael, 100% of the way.
Margaret, thank you very much. We appreciate you calling in. We appreciate your patience, and we certainly appreciate your powerful comments. Folks, got to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. WURD 96.1 FM.
The Black Words Book Club. Word Radio's conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for June is Taught by Women. Poems as Resistance Language by Hakeem Adabudi. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, Tuesday, June 8th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
WURD family, West Philadelphia residents and business owners, listen up. Juneteenth is coming, and guess what? You have the opportunity to win cash dollars. It's the Juneteenth Freedom Day Float House Competition. Decorate your home, business, nonprofit, or entire block. Be a part of the largest Juneteenth celebration in the nation, right here in Philadelphia, by decorating your float house. Show your West Philadelphia pride. You could win $1,000 for the best decoration. 1 prize awarded in each category, powered by Philadelphia Foundation. For all the details, log on to juneteenthphilly.org. Log on now, juneteenthphilly.org. Brought to you by Comcast and supported by the Knight Lenfest Local News Transformation Fund. Tune in to Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. for The Plug. Updates and the latest discussion with Black entrepreneurs.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
That is absolutely correct. You are listening to The Source. And as you know, The Source is hosted normally by Sister Warrior, Andrea Lawful Sanders, but she's taking a well-deserved break. And as a result, thanks to her and thanks to Dee Patel, the Director of Programming and News here at WURD, yours truly, Michael Cord, a.k.a. Michael X, a.k.a. the angriest black man in America, is doing my thing. And today's show, the tagline for today's show, the mantra for today's show, is the very same mantra and tagline that ATTAC, ATAC, Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, that we use as our slogan, which is never forget, always avenge. I'm going to talk about what happened exactly 100 years ago to the very day, back on June 1, 1921. It actually began on May 31, 1921, but didn't end until the next day, June 1, 1921, which means as of today, which is June 1, 2021, it's still exactly 100 years to the very day. Folks, I got a whole bunch I want to squeeze in. We got to go back to our callers. I know we had Raza Khan on, and we had to cut him because we went to the press conference. So we're going to have Ali hold on for a couple seconds. We're going to have Wayne hold on for a couple seconds. We got to go back to Raza Khan. Raza Khan, please continue.
Hello?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to say that the Republicans have already broken enough laws to go to jail. You know what I mean? I'm just a paralegal. If I know this, I know they got to know it. They got a thing called an oath of office declaration. When you break that oath, when you say anything that against the Constitution, that's illegal. You know what I mean? I like people to just look it up. Don't take my word for it. 5 SUC 7331. It says anytime they do anything in that manner, and that manner just hurt me because Joe Biden got on television. He allowed the Republicans to vote against him, and then take credit for all the things that they voted for.
Great point.
And then said he didn't want to embarrass them. Man, we fighting for our life.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes.
You know, because I just happened to see a community class, and I saw, you know, like the sheriff and Jamie Blackwell, David Ho, and listened to them on Shamari thing. And I said, man, these people are, you know, they act like they're serious. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. And this one made me start thinking, I said, well, maybe if enough people start to pressing the legal inside, we might get somewhere. You know, they got to send these jokers to jail. They
Yes,
have
sir.
no fear
Yes,
of it.
sir.
And if they don't send them to jail, and they broke the law, they can't say they didn't do that. They talking about who they wanna put on. They need 10 Republicans. Send 10 of them to jail, and you got enough. That's basically what I want to say, man. Thanks for the...
Raza Khan, thank you very much for saying what you just said, and more important, thank you for being patient. We had to cut him off early, do the press conference, then we came back, and he's a gentleman. He waited to come back. We appreciate that. We got Ali, we got Wayne. Let's first go to Ali. Ali, how can we help you, or how can you help us? And Ali, are you there? Ali going once. Ali going twice. Ali gone. Next up, Wayne. Wayne, are you with us?
Yes, how you doing, Mike?
Wayne, you kind of paused right there. We're about to call it on you, but you're there in nick of time. How are you today, Wayne?
I'm doing great, praise God.
Good hearing from you, man. What can we do for you, or what can you do for us?
I was listening to the brother dropping it in reference to what's going on with the young folks. You know, me being a former gang member, you know, I used to get from a gang called Kamak and Diamond, but back in the day.
That was hard. What was that, the 70s?
Man, that's 60s. That's back in the 60s.
Woo,
you know,
okay, all right.
You know, matter of fact, I was the chief counsel for my part. Anyway, I want to get to the point that I noticed today that a lot of these, I like to call them crews, because a lot of them is not gangs, because in our mind, a gang is one that has structure. You know what I mean? You know, and what they have today, these little crews going around. You know what I mean? They don't have no structure there. And
that's a great point. Like that's an excellent point. Yep. Yeah. Keep talking.
You know, that was just one of the things that I wanted to speak about. And you know, when looking at the culture and in terms of the young folks today, you know, I'm bewildered, because when I was coming up, it had to be very, very serious to do something like that with a gun. Most times, man, we're making guns. We made, you know what I mean? We made our guns, and sometimes the bullets go up in the air, all that stuff. But I'm saying, you know, today is a whole new thing here, and I talk with the young folks, and what I find is that, you know, Facebook plays a lot in it.
No doubt.
You know
no doubt.
You know, and so I'm just saying, you know, for myself, I like to look at the solution, or how can we reduce this, or how can we, you know, find a way to end this. You know, I'm always there in that space, you know, and I just think that we, as a community, have a responsibility in terms of the unnecessary gun violence. You know, one of the things that people can do, you know, especially for the young girls that have their friends over that comes over, you know, 9 times out of 10, he got his gun with him. So what do you say to him? Hey, you got to put a lock on this. You know what I mean? This is something that you can do. You know, we lost quite a few young folks.
And we got about 30 seconds left, so we want you to finish your point, Wayne.
Michael, I can go on, but, you know, I'm more into, like I said, I'm more into solutions and looking at how can we, you know, address the problem. You know what I mean? And do away with the problem. You know, because actually we are erasing ourselves, you know. And so that's all I wanted to say. And thank you for taking my call, Mike.
My pleasure, Wayne. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for sharing your thoughts here at WRD 96.1 FM. Once again, big shout out to Andrea Lawful Sanders, the host of the show, which is aired at this time. But because she's taking a well-deserved, long overdue break, yours truly, thanks to Sister Andrea, and thanks to Dee Patel, the Director of Programming and News, yours truly. Attorney Michael Cord, a.k.a. Michael X, a.k.a. the angriest black man in America, is sitting in today as guest host and will be here until 4 p.m. Those of you who want to try to squeeze in, we will try to squeeze you in. The numbers are 215-634-8065. That's 215-634-8065. Toll free, 866-361-0900. Once again, 866-361-0900. And by the way, as you heard at 1:30, we broadcast live here at WURD the historic press conference, which is unlike any lawsuit you've ever heard of in connection with police brutality. Most lawyers, or at least many lawyers, are nothing but vultures and vampires. They fly around in the sky, or they lurk around in the dark alleys, and they wait for a black person to be brutally beaten. They wait for a black person to be killed. And then these lawyers swoop in, work on the settlement, never go to trial. They never tried a damn case in their life. They all got all these settlements. So they get these settlements for, let's say, $5 million. They take not only 40% off, that's almost half. They take 40% of your settlement, and you got to pay all the expenses. So when you see these lawyers at these meetings and these rallies in these cities, those lawyers don't live in those cities. They catch planes to those cities. They use rental cars. They go to fancy restaurants. So all that money they spend being carpetbaggers, going from city to city as death hustlers, if they spend, let's say, $100,000 on hotels and food and planes, that $100,000 doesn't come out of their pocket. That's taken from the 60% that the client gets, because the lawyer's already going to get his 40% or her 40%. Those expenses don't come out of that. They come out of the 60% from the family. But the lawyers involved in today's press conference: 1, Paul Hetznecker; 2, Riley Ross; 3, Kevin Mincy; 4, Marnie Jo Snyder; and 5, yours truly, Michael Cord. As part of this 5-member team, like I said, we're seeking compensatory damages. We want our clients to get paid for their pain and suffering. But more than dollars, we're seeking change. And by change, I mean a change in the way the police department does what it does. We want to end the brutality. We want to end the use of rubber bullets. We want to end the use of tear gas. We want to end the choking and the gagging. We want to end all that stuff. We want to end police brutality, because if you're just in it as a lawyer for the money, you sue the cop on Monday, you get a settlement in terms of money on Tuesday, and the cop goes back on the street Wednesday, beating and killing other people. That's why lawsuits shouldn't focus exclusively on compensatory damages, which means money. Lawsuits should also seek consent decrees and injunctive relief. That means a change in what's going on, not just a dollar for what happened, but a change for what will happen. And you never hear these lawyers talk about injunctive relief. You never hear these lawyers talk about consent decrees, because they focus on changing the police. These lawyers simply talk about dollars, get paid, and move on to the next dead man at the hands of the police department. Those of you who want to jump in, you can try to jump in. We can't promise you. The numbers are 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. Toll free, 866-361-0900. And we'll try to get to you as quickly as we can. But right now, we want to go to our guest. And our guest is the Honorable State Representative Donna Bullock. And I wanted her on because she understands the elephant in the room. She can see the elephant in the room, and she talks about the elephant in the room. What do I mean by that? I mean Legislative Act 111 of 1968. You can't talk about changing police misconduct. You can't talk about changing police brutality. You can't talk about police accountability unless you talk about Legislative Act 111 of 1968. Before we hear her talk about it, let me just tell you how impressive she is. State Representative Donna Bullock is a Democrat here in Philadelphia and a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, representing the 195th Legislative District in North and West Philly. She won that seat back in 2015. She's impressive for that, but it's not just that. She's also a lawyer. She's a graduate of Temple University, and she previously served as special assistant to Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark and as the City Council Research Fellowship Director. In other words, she got experience and a scholarly approach to how legislation is done. She joined President Clark's office back in 2011 as his Community and Economic Development Coordinator. Before her work for the city, Bullock worked at a private law firm and for Philadelphia Community Legal Services. So for me, all that other fancy stuff she does or did, yeah, that's good. But a lawyer like her could work for a multi-million-dollar law firm at that time, but chose community legal services because she's always been about the people. Representative Bullock's public service precedes her work in government. She has volunteered and served on several boards, task force, and coalitions, including the Smith Memorial Playground near the area I grew up in North Philly, the Columbia North YMCA Advisory Board, West Philadelphia Child Care Network, and the Mayor's Office of Community Service Advisory Board. I could spend the next 25 minutes singing her praises, but let's get to Legislative Act 111. I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you everything. But let me just start out by telling you all this. You might say, okay, Mike, I hear you talking about Legislative Act 111 of 68, but what does that do? Why are you saying it's the elephant in the room? Why do you have the state rep on to talk about it? Give me 10 seconds. I'll explain it, turn it over to her. I wrote an article in the Tribune. This is what I wrote. This was like 3 years ago. Legislative Act 111 of 1968 is a state law that allows a civilian arbitrator from the pro-cop American Arbitration Association, which, by the way, rules in favor of cops at least 90% of the time. This Legislative Act 111 of 68, this is what it does. It allows the arbitrator to, quote, ignore findings of fact, unquote, regarding brutality and other misconduct deemed founded by the Internal Affairs Division and by the Police Board of Inquiry. That legislative act also incredibly allows the arbitrator to, quote, reject the punishment, unquote, assessed by Internal Affairs and the Police Board of Inquiry. And check this out. They can reject those findings even if, quote, the facts as charged have been proven. That's the problem. We need to get rid of this. Without further ado, the Honorable State Representative Donna Bullock. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Michael. I am honored to be here with you. You don't know, this is my first time on your show. I don't know how it took so long, but I'm glad I'm here and to talk about Act 111, which you laid it out, you know, exactly what Act 111 is, 1968. You know, this came out during a time when there was civil unrest happening in our country, a different time. So, but the response then was to give police more benefits, to protect police so they can, quote unquote, protect you. That was the narrative back then.
And I'm glad you framed it that way. And clearly, you're not anti-cop. You're anti-police brutality. So tell us, what are you trying to do in connection with Legislative Act 111 of 1968?
Right. So we need to reform Act 111. What it did was it gave the FOP the ability to it gave them more leverage, right? So what the FOP gave up is they gave up their right to strike in exchange for binding arbitration. And that process you just explained. What happens with this binding arbitration over the last 40-plus years is that the FOP has gained a lot of leverage.
Yes.
They have influenced that AAA, that arbitration association, where they don't want to rule against the FOP. And they've used that binding arbitration to, get benefits, get you know, days and health care for police and law enforcement. They deserve that. But they've also used that binding arbitration process to allow bad cops that engage in misconduct, to get back on their job, to ignore discipline from their own, from the IAB, from the board.
Even if there's videotape showing the misconduct.
Video showing, So from their own, it has these binding arbitration process has returned many of those officers back on the force. Like, just imagine with your kids, you give them punishment, and someone else comes around and says, your punishment doesn't matter.
Yep, that's a great point.
They get to stay up all night. They get to do what they want to do.
It's like mom says, go to your room, and pop comes along and says, no, have some ice cream.
Absolutely. That's the same process here. But what it's also allowed is, so that's a discipline arbitration, but we also have interest arbitration, and this comes to the collective bargaining agreement. And what we have found is that when you want to push for police reform, when you want to, work with your commissioner and your police department to curb bad police practices and policies, such as maybe we want you to wear body cameras.
Okay.
What the SOP has done is they've used Act 111, they've used the collective bargaining process to say, we're not going to do police reform, we're not going to wear body cameras unless you give us X, Y, and Z. So in this case in Philadelphia, they said, we won't wear body cams unless you give us a bonus.
Wow. In fact, let's do this because this is so important. We don't want to stop it right there. We're up against the clock with a commercial break, but we want you to talk about that very point regarding the bonus in exchange for the body cam. Folks who are just tuned in, we're listening to the Honorable State Representative Donna Bullock telling us about Act 111 of 1968. She's going to tell us more, but first a break. WURD 96.1 FM.
The WURD Radio Newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio Newsletter.
If you're struggling with alcohol or drugs, Recovery Centers of America can help. RCA's local inpatient and outpatient programs are founded on science and delivered with heart from an expert, caring team who will inspire and guide you every step of the way. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now to speak with a treatment advisor. At RCA, you'll be in a community that builds connections and fosters support from peers and RCA's team of medical professionals and recovery support specialists. At RCA's state-of-the-art campuses in Devon, PA and Mays Landing, New Jersey, they tailor your treatment to you and also offer specialized programs for patients with history of trauma, for patients who have achieved recovery but are experiencing a relapse, for young adults, adults 50 years and older, a confidential program for first responders and military, and a faith-based program. RCA answers the phone and accepts patients 24/7. And because it's local and in-network with insurance providers, treatment is affordable and accessible. Don't wait. Call 1-888-RECOVERY today.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
And we are back at WURD 96.1 FM and WURD 900 AM. And folks, you not only can hear us, but you can see us. We're streaming at WURD Facebook Live, at WURD YouTube, at WURD Twitch. And by the way, you can catch us at WURDradio.com and see us by way of WURD TV Live. So many ways you can see and hear us. And you're listening now to State Representative Donna Bullock, who's telling us about probably the most powerful tool in the arsenal of the police department. That's Act 111 of 1968. And she was telling us about this whole thing where the police can simply say, hey, we know this is a good thing you're asking us to do, but we're not going to do this good thing unless you give us something else, because Act 111 of 68 allows it. Representative Bullock, please continue.
Right. So thank you, Michael. We've seen this recently where Act 111 and the collective bargaining process being used for negotiating for more pay, for bonuses. When our colleague, Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson, introduced legislation which was passed by council, signed by our mayor, to require for some public comment period before the collective bargaining process, before the city signs a contract with the police department, a contract that you and I, taxpayers, pay for, and that we expect the folks we are hiring, the law enforcement we're hiring, to protect and serve our communities, right? The city said we should be able to have some public comment period for that. The FOP challenged that law under Act 111, saying that you cannot have a public comment period because that is in violation of Act 111 because they did not negotiate that through the union agreement itself. So my legislation does that, number one. It requires a public comment period before the city, any city across the Commonwealth, signs a union contract with the FOP, and this also applies to fire, have to be clear. Two, it requires for some diversity in that AAA panel, that American Arbitrators Association panel. We know that panel, that association, is majority white male, usually not from the city of Philadelphia. Don't have the kind of relative experience that we are looking for in the arbitrator to decide about decisions that impact our community, right? So how can we allow for some more diversity? So if the city and the union can't agree on that arbitrator, have that person be selected by our Court of Common Pleas, by our president judge. Hopefully that person will have a little bit more discretion about making sure that person reflects the city of Philadelphia. Also requiring that the arbitrator's decision is based in some facts, based in some act. Don't even have to explain why they came to that decision. And it allows for some very limited amount of appeal. So that if that decision is just blatantly flat out wrong based on some kind of error, some other clerical error, we can appeal it. If it's against the public interest, we can appeal it. And lastly, it will say that matters of discipline, in those cases in which that discipline is a crime, it is a certain number of enumerated offenses that we have outlined in the legislation, and or violates the state or U.S. Constitution, that misconduct the discipline cannot be overturned. So as you said, if the facts are found to be true, they cannot overturn the discipline that the commissioner, the IAB, or whoever has administered. That discipline will stand so long as the facts are found to be so. And so that goes straight to what you said earlier. And also it says in my legislation that discipline cannot be part of the negotiation, the union contract. It is not something that can be negotiated through the collective bargaining process. In my house, go back to these kids, you're not negotiating with me what we disciplining or not disciplining in the household. Right. So
that's
mom
the
and dad
perfect
get
analogy.
That say so.
Yes.
And I think it's really important to point out, oftentimes I talk about the power and the privilege of law enforcement, like the job that they have. You have my life in your hands, somebody else's life in your hands. I know folks who were fired because they did not flip the fries on time, Michael. Those fries, they suffered in that grease. And because you didn't flip those fries on time, you lost your job. And here you have the power of my life in your hands.
Yes.
You're not held to the same standard as the person that flipped fries.
I got to tell you, I'm going to steal that analogy that we fire the person who burns the fries, but we don't fire the person who commits a crime. Wow.
We fire the person that flips the fries for much less. For much less than how we hold law enforcement accountable. Look, I believe Act 111 could be a useful tool for law enforcement unions when it comes to advocating for their members for benefits and such. But what I tell you is that the FOP, its president, they are very good at their job and that they do advocate for their members.
True. But
not necessarily for the people that they serve. And there's a history here. You have to also understand that the FOP itself as an institution started in Pennsylvania, started in Pittsburgh, grew in popularity, and during the time that Act 111 was enacted, the FOP president of Philly, I think had, if I'm correct on the timeline here, had become the national president. So he was very influential in shaping what policing looked like across this country. And you have to also put in context, maybe 10 years before this act, Philadelphia was the first city to have a citizens advisory board. But that ended because of the FOP, using their will and their willpower in convincing the elected officials at that time that the people could not sufficiently or they didn't have the skill set, the knowledge, and the experience to police the police, and so that it was more dangerous for them to have a Citizens Advisory Board than not. And so that's how the first Citizens Advisory Board in the country was disbanded because of the work of the FOP here in Philadelphia.
Wow, wow, wow. Let me first thank you for that important history lesson so people can put it all in context. But more immediately, I want to thank you for your legislation regarding Act 111 of 1968. We've run out of time speaking to the Honorable State Representative Donna Bullock. We want to give her the final 30 seconds. This show is done like my Sunday show called The Radio Courtroom. I'm a lawyer, she's a lawyer, and she knows that at the end of trials, there's something called the closing argument. So we're going to give her an opportunity, 30 seconds, 60 seconds for a closing argument. If there's anything you want to add, anything you want to repeat, anything you want to highlight, the final 60 seconds are yours. And included in that, please tell folks how we can contact you, your district office, your website, whatever. The microphone is yours. The jury is listening.
Thank you, Michael. For folks who want to see real police reform, for folks who want to see the change that Michael was talking about before he brought me on the show, you need to reform Act 111. Don't run away or shy away from the idea that we're addressing union or labor issues. This is not a labor issue. FOP has not acted like a union. It has acted in many cases like a bully. And so we need to address Act 111. I look forward to working with folks across the state to make that happen. We found some bipartisan support last year. Hopefully we can do the same. You can reach me on Facebook, Rep. Donna Bullock. On Twitter, same thing, Rep. Donna Bullock. My office is at 2835 West Girard Avenue. Our phone number is 215-684-3738. I also had the honor this year of being the chair of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. And it's been great working across the state with people of color, black folk across the community, across the Commonwealth, not just in Philly and Pittsburgh, but in towns like Johnstown and Williamsport and Aliquippa. Black folk are all across Pennsylvania, and these issues are important to them all across the state.
I am so glad you let folks know who didn't know that in addition to your other accomplishments, you are the chairperson of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. Some of the older folks listening, they know who K. Leroy Irvis was and what he did, and here you are following in the footsteps of such a wonderful man. I want to thank you for what you're doing in regards to legislation, but more important, I want to thank you for being a great public servant doing great public service. Some people can accuse me of being anti-cop, but they can never accuse you of being anti-cop. You're simply about pro-justice for everybody, including the good cops out there. Representative Bullock, thank you very, very much for spending time with the WRD family. And by the way, I'm the foreman of that jury that you just made that closing argument to, so we're going to give you whatever you want.
Well, I have to also say it's been an honor to be named an Angry Black Woman earlier this year.
That's true.
In your company with the angriest black man of Philadelphia. So it's good company. Thank you for having me on the show.
Very well said, but more important, very well done. Thank you very much. Folks, you heard it. You heard State Representative Donna Bullock talking about Legislative Act 111 of 1968. You can follow her on Twitter and on Facebook. Folks, we got about, 20 minutes left, 19 minutes left, and maybe I can squeeze some people in. The numbers are 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065. And the toll-free number is 866-361-0900. Let me do this, folks. I'm going to try to squeeze in as much as I can within the next 20 minutes because I'll be out of here by 3:55. I got so much more to share with you, but I got to get to the callers. I see we got another caller, and I'm trying to get everybody in, and we got Jerome in West Philly. So let's go to West Philly and talk to Jerome on line 1. Jerome, how can we help you, or how can you help us?
Attorney Cord, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, beautiful. I have been trying to reach you for the last month. Let me first say...
Let me say this. Most people tell me the last year, and I told them as soon as I can clone myself, I can be everywhere for everybody. But until then, it's going to take some time.
Let me just say, It's not my first time calling, but it's my first time getting through to you, and it is
excellent.
It is really an honor.
I appreciate that.
You, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have a situation that I want to share with you that happened to me.
Go ahead. Take your time.
It happened to me on April 9th of this year. I was in a department store in Center City, and I was looking for a particular item, which I didn't find, but I found something, and I purchased it. I went to purchase it, which I did. Now, I stood in line, and a gentleman stood next to me and said that he wanted to talk to me. But I was in line waiting to pay for my purchase.
And let me say this, Jerome, we can't do a law office consultation right now because, one, too many people are listening, and two, it would take too long. So just give me the straight to the point, what the question is. I'd be happy to answer it.
This is what happened. Okay, he was talking to someone, then I paid for my purchase, and I proceeded to get on the escalator to leave the store. So he said to me that a woman had been pinched on her backside, and that I was the perpetrator. And then he said that they had me on camera. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, he pulled me to the side, and they detained me for a few minutes, and said, well, we're going to get the woman to clarify this. So in the meantime, and then he said, if we find that you did this, we're going to put you out the store. So they got the young woman, and she came up. And
more, Jerome, you got to pick it up, Jerome. I can't do a consultation.
Okay.
Just give me the 30-second version. What do you need to know? I definitely want to answer it for you.
So she saw me, and she said that was not him. And she confirmed it was not me. Okay? And that was that. Well, that wasn't that for me because I was detained and I felt I was harassed. I want to know that is there any kind of, if I chose to do any kind of legal action, do I have any avenue?
You might. I mean, it always comes down to this. You can sue anybody for anything, but you got to have proper proof to prove your case. Based on what you just told me, I need you to call an attorney, 2 attorneys. The first one, try Joe Tucker. You can reach Attorney Joe Tucker at 215-875-0609. I'm going to repeat that. Attorney Joe Tucker, 215-875-0609. If he can't help you, try a lawyer by the name of Troy Wilson. That's Attorney Troy Wilson. His number is 215-985-6606. 215, no, that's not it. It's 215-985-4566. Troy Wilson, 215-985-4566. So between Joe Tucker and Troy Wilson, they'll let you know if you got a good case, they'll take it. Bad case, they won't. Thank you very much, Jerome, for the call.
Thank you.
All right, and we appreciate that, folks. I want to get my last 10-minute comments in, but again, we got to consider our callers as a priority. So I might not be able to get all the stuff in I wanted in my last 15 minutes. So let's go to Schuylkill and talk to Prince. Prince always has something profound to say, so we're going to hear from Prince. Prince, how can we help you, or how can you help us?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you today?
Hey, Mike, are you familiar with an attorney named Robert Ross?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute. No. I know are you saying Robert Ross or Riley Ross?
No, Robert Ross.
I don't know Robert Ross, no.
He was with Specter and Klein.
Okay. Now, in fact, I thought you were talking about the guy I'm working with on that press conference we talked about today. His name is Riley Ross, but you're saying Robert. I don't know him, but the firm you just mentioned, big-time mega law firm.
Right. He was my camp counselor at the Nicetown Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he million-dollar lawyer.
Oh, no doubt. Multi-million-dollar, probably.
Absolutely. So the state rep that you just had on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to hear when people cheer things, Mike. But like you and I come from Cheney, and the scorecard is always important. Not who you want to be, but who you are when you get in office. and nobody still told me why that $100 million for Philadelphia poor went back. And you get on here saying you cheer this and you cheer that, and you fighting the police. But don't you think that $100 million could have helped us in the community in a way where we would be?
Hey, man, that's a great question. That's the one. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the next state official who's on my show, because that's a great question. And did we lose Prince? Prince,
Derek Green as an attorney for city council. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I heard you say Derek Green. Please repeat that.
You got Derek Green as an attorney for city council, and you got Bullock as an attorney for the state rep. And it seems like they get a ton of the heavy lifting because they are attorneys. And so I'm not putting it solely on her shoulders, but when you take a chairman role and we lose $100 million to the prison system that was supposed to go to poor folks, then something should be said about you, because if you want to do the heavy lifting, then you have to take the heavy responsibility of responding to us.
Hey, Prince, I wish I could argue against you on that, but I can't. You're 100% right.
All right, so that's my soapbox, man. I'm going to let other people talk to you, man. I just don't want people keep telling us that we're going to go against the cops for you and we're going to represent you, and yet you've already shown that you have not represented us. And a lot of things that, my problem is, stop fighting for the cops for me if the cops not bothering you. Because a lot of these state reps and officials, they pull a badge out, they get a city badge, they not in the hood when the cops are standing around talking to somebody and everybody's standing around. I've not seen one of these officials go to the hospital on all these kids that have died. At all. None of them. Not city council or state rep.
Prince, we appreciate your call. You always ask the strong, profound, probing questions. We appreciate that, man. Sprints. His name is Prince. Prince from Schuylkill. And more important than Schuylkill is Cheney. Thank you very much for the call, Prince. We appreciate that. Folks, got to take a quick break, and I got to wrap things up. I don't think maybe I can squeeze in Yusuf when we come back. First to break, WURD 96.1 FM.
Are you a leader in your community, helping children get a good education? Do you work to give kids quality learning opportunities and a strong start in life? The William Penn Foundation's Racial Equity Grant Fund is awarding grants up to $40,000 to small nonprofit organizations that are led by people of color and focus on education in Philadelphia. Apply now through June 25th at WilliamPennFoundation.org. That's WilliamPennFoundation.org.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Source on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
And folks, we're about to wrap things up. Once again, I want to give a big shout out to Andrea Lawful Sanders. I should say Sister Warrior, Andrea Lawful Sanders of The Source, for allowing me to sit in the big chair temporarily today while she's doing her much needed vacation thing. Also, big shout out to the Director of Programming and News, Dee Patel. Well, I'm going to call on my final caller, and then I got to wrap things up. We got Yusuf from Oak Lane on line 3. How can we help you? How can you help us?
I just want to be real quick and let you know that you are perfectly right about us having to fight against people that look like us too.
that want to defend those who have struck against us. Friday, a listener called in and defended that individual out San Jose, California, that killed those people in the transit authority. Right. You know about that case, right?
Yes,
this guy killed people that look like me and you, black and brown people. And then listener calls in and defends them, saying that the union did that. No, I worked around people like that. I had to get away from people like that. I worked for the retail clerks union back in the 70s. And the white guys that worked down there where I worked at, they would do stuff to try to get us fired. One guy said something to the Ice Capades entertainer named Dorothy Hamill, some kind of lewd comment. And he seen him when he said it, and he got fired on the scene. So then, because he got fired for trying to get me blamed for something that he said, he told the other guys that were still there, and they started harassing me, and one of them got fired for harassing me. They still wasn't satisfied. They met me on our way home and pulled guns out on me. I said, look, man, you got fired, your buddy got fired, I didn't do nothing, you did it, and you want to pull guns out on me? That's how they would have shot me if it wasn't for security. And that's what they'll do. They will kill people because they do not like to see men like me and you have someone come to our defense and say, no, he didn't do that. That's all I'm trying to say. But our problem is people that look like me and you will defend people like that. Thank you, man.
Yusef, thank you for your patience. Thank you for calling in, man. And I can feel the passion in your voice. Thank you very much for that. And folks, we run out of time. I got about 7 minutes to squeeze in 1 hour's worth of work. So, folks, fasten your seatbelts because we are going to go on a ride right now. First thing, as I pointed out, today's show, the slogan, the mantra of today's show is never forget, always avenge. We talk about not just the Black Wall Street, but talk about slavery, even talk about before slavery, talk about 1492. Never forget, always avenge. And by avenge, I don't mean revenge. Revenge means to do the bad thing to the person that the person did to me. Revenge focuses on the victimizer, whereas avenge focuses on the victim. I'm not going out to attack the victimizer. I'm trying to help up and support and defend the victim. That's why I say never forget, always avenge. I wrote an article in the Tribune. I actually write 2 columns in the Tribune. One is every week on Sunday. It's called Freedom's Journal. I write that every Sunday. And because that blew up, the Tribune said, hey, Mike, we want you to write a second column, not weekly, but a second column monthly. And I entitled that column, Black Dollars Matter. And it comes out the first Tuesday of each month. So if you want the article that focuses on Black Wall Street from a cultural standpoint, and the article that focuses on Black Wall Street from a financial standpoint, get the Sunday Tribune. Get the Tuesday Tribune, because my article's in both. How do you get it? Go to phillytrib.com. That's phillytrib.com. Type in CORD, C-O-A-R-D, and Black Wall Street. The article will come up. If you don't have that fancy stuff, just email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. MichaelCord, the letter X like in Malcolm X, michaelcordx@gmail.com, and say, yo, Mike, send me that Tribune article that you have in the Sunday Tribune. Send me that Tribune article that you have in the Tuesday Tribune. Today's Tribune, it's published the first Tuesday of every month. And let me just read the first part of today's Tribune article. It goes like this. Apoplectic, ballistic, enraged, furious, incensed, infuriated, irate, livid, outraged, seething. Those aforementioned 10 words don't come close to how I feel every single second I think about what happened exactly 100 years ago during the 18-hour period from May 31 through June 1, 1921, when devils fired murderous hell down on the prosperous, self-sufficient, and completely innocent Black Wall Street community of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a black community that was the wealthiest in the country. The words I really want to use are profane, violent, and threatening. However, I would not use them here in the Tribune because I have too much respect for the civility and professionalism of this prestigious, historic black newspaper. But catch me on the street, and privately ask me what I really think, and I'll tell you in no uncertain terms. And don't even think about asking me to forgive and turn the other cheek. Black folks have done so much cheek turning since 1619 that we've lost most of our face and most of our behinds. Malcolm was right in his 1964, the ballot or the bullet speech, when he wisely said, stop singing and start swinging. And there's more in this article. I don't have enough time to talk to you about it, but like I said, just go to phillytrib.com, type in CORD, C-O-A-R-D, type in Black Wall Street, and the article will come up. And in connection with Sunday's article, let me just tell you some stuff about Black Wall Street that you didn't know. And I'm going to fire through this because I got 4 minutes left. First of all, we know it happened 100 years ago to the very day on May 31 and June 1 of 1921. We know that it kicked off the Monday before that. So it would have been Tuesday, May 31, but on Monday, May 30, some white woman lied about being sexually assaulted by a black man in an elevator. And this racist newspaper called the Tulsa Tribune, it put out this fake news about this black man doing what he was accused of doing, but it was a complete lie. By the way, if you want to see how gruesome it was, even though we don't have a documentary about the actual dropping of the bombs, we got the residue and we got photos, but we don't have the actual dropping the bomb. You got to check out the first 3 minutes of Watchmen. Watchmen is a TV series on HBO featuring Regina King. And in season 1, episode 1, they show you, and it's a Hollywood film, but it shows you like a documentary what really happened with the dropping of the bombs. You got to check it out. Let me say this. Black Wall Street is, as I pointed out, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, wealthiest black community in America at the time. And check, this is what you don't know, so let me tell you. Did you know that in that community, that Black Wall Street community in Greenwood, that the dollar circulated between 36 and 100 times? Let me repeat that. The dollar in Greenwood in 1921 and before, in the black community, circulated 36 to 100 times before it left. Why? Because black grocery store owners would buy and sell stuff to black churches. Black churches would buy and sell stuff from black restaurants. Black restaurants would use the services of the law offices owned and operated by black folks. There were 6 single-plane transport airlines that used the money they got from other businesses. There were 2 movie theaters. There was a school, a hospital, a bank, a bus company, a post office, a library, and all they did was pass the money around themselves. Folks, I'm getting hyped, and I don't have enough time to cover everything, but this is what I want you to do. 1, get those Tribune articles I mentioned. 2, check out my social media page where I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says, I'm still waiting to catch Zimmerman slipping. I'm still waiting to catch Zimmerman slipping. That'll tell you how I feel about Zimmerman and about what happened in connection with Black Wall Street. Also, if you want to get a copy of today's press conference to see the video regarding this historic lawsuit I and 4 other lawyers filed to end police brutality in Philly, email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. I'll send you that press conference video, and I'll send you the more than 100-page lawsuit that we filed. In addition to that, there's something I want to talk about in connection with Helpless, but we don't have nearly enough time to cover that. I'll be back on the radio doing my radio courtroom show, as I do every Sunday from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. Once again, big shout out to those who made it possible for me to do what I'm doing today. Big shout out to Andrea Lawful Sanders and to Dee Patel. Both of them allowed me to do what I'm doing today. I'm going to end today's show like I end every show. It goes like this. Think black. I'm out.